On the ground, right side. Another ground ball, number 19, and the Cardinals beat the Nationals 6-1 is your final score, partner. What a way to end up our first road trip.
That's what it sounded like yesterday on Cardinals TV. Cardinals get yet another victory. We have now seen 2 weeks of baseball here in St. Louis. Want to hear from you. 314-399-9646. Also, YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Cardinals are 7-5. They have played, I would say, 4 very different teams. And at least 4 teams that are coming from different perspectives leading into this season. The Nationals are tanking. That team's no good, but they're also very young. They knew this coming into the year. That's why Miles Michaelis is a part of their roster. Detroit and New York, they are both trying to win this year. They both see themselves as legit playoff contenders. And then you've got Tampa, who's doing the Tampa thing. I don't know what to make of them. I think they're pretty average, maybe slightly below, but whatever. It's Tampa. You can't really put your finger on it until we get to September and you actually know what the roster is going to look like. You're 7-5. The offense, generally speaking, has been quite good. The pitching, again, generally speaking, has been mostly bad. What have we learned about the Cardinals through the first 2 weeks of the season, in your estimation?
That they're better than what we thought they were. I realistically thought this team would be not a 100-loss team, but I thought they'd be kind of toying with a 500 record, and probably because of how everyone else around the National League has looked, at least on paper, they'd probably be trending towards out of a playoff spot and just kind of fighting to get back to 500. And although they're still fighting with that 500 record, they've toyed with it and flirted with it a couple of times already 2 weeks in. I think the National League is allowing and is going to allow this Cardinals team to stay in baseball games. I mean, the amount of and the ability to score runs is the part that I think is most impressive with them. I mean, 59 runs. And if you look at the teams around them, I mean, you've got what? One team that's sitting out of the playoff spot that scored more, and that was the Nationals, who have scored 71. But you, in line with all of these other teams in the wild card, even a couple of teams that are holding the top spot in their division, you scored more runs, or at least right there with them. So I think this offense is going to allow this Cardinals team to stay above 500, and I don't know if it's going to lead to playoffs. I think cream rises to the top. I think the Cubs continue to improve, and they'll be better than what they're at right now. I think it's going to flirt with being like a 3rd or a 4th place team in the Central.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think they're no longer maybe the worst team in the NL Central. Now, they're not a playoff team by any means from what we've seen through the first 2 weeks. They just don't have the pitching to be that. The offense, though, is what's got me excited about what this season could at least hold, because I thought going into the year, look, I wasn't expecting a potential Jordan Walker bounce back. I wasn't expecting Nolan Gorman to bounce back. I really didn't know what to expect from J.J. Weatherholt. I just named 3 of your top 5 hitters in your lineup. So if you only had Burley and Herrera and then maybe Weatherholt, then it would be a story of, okay, I don't know what they're going to do from a lineup perspective and what this offense is going to look like. What happens if they don't score and they don't pitch the ball well? That's not a good recipe for success. So I had my concerns there, and the offense has been the surprise for me. And they're doing this, by the way, while Herrera's not really hitting in the 2 spot. And Burley's been kind of, I don't know if struggling is the right word, but he clearly still hasn't found his stride. Yeah, so I've been impressed with the offense. And they're doing it not the way that they were kind of hoping to do, which is, hey, we're going to be single you to death by 1,000 cuts. We're going to be aggressive on the base paths, which to their credit they have been. It's been more thump in the lineup than I was expecting. They're slugging the ball a lot better than I expected.
I would say my biggest, I've learned that they're going to be interesting. I don't know how good they're going to be long term, but they're at least going to be interesting, and that's all we really wanted this year, right?
Yeah.
Like this season was not about contending for a World Series. The Cardinals made that very clear all offseason of saying, hey, we're going for long-term gains here, and we will not allow the short-term pain from this to affect our overall planning. And I think that's the right way to go about this. I think they're doing this the correct way, but I've been highly encouraged by what we've seen so far this year. Jordan Walker is clearly the #1 storyline, but it goes beyond him. Nolan Gorman has had some real moments so far. I would say Alec Burleson looks like he's playing within himself. There are moments, especially early on, where it felt as though teams were pitching around him to try to get to the middle of the order, and he didn't take the bait. He's like, yeah, okay, if you're going to pitch around me, I'll take my base. J.J. Weatherholt, I would say so far, has just looked like a calming presence at the top of the order. Has it been overwhelming? No. He hasn't hit for a ton of power just yet, but he's getting on base. he's a pain in the ass to pitch against. I mean, that guy, it seems like every count that he gets into is 3-2. It feels very Brendan Donovan-y, honestly. Like the average might not be quite as high, but so far he feels very similar to Brendan Donovan at the top of the order. And then you've had some moments with the pitching. Hasn't been great, but some moments where, like yesterday, the stuff is still not there. The velocity is going to take some time, it seems like, but McGreevy's pitching well, despite the lack of velo. You know, I think we've seen some positive returns so far from Riley O'Brien. So some of these players that we were curious about coming into the season that really do matter, not just for 2026, but beyond, I would say you couldn't have asked for a whole lot more in the early portion of the season. And of course, a lot of that comes back to the real storyline, which is Jordan Walker, who hit yet another home run yesterday. Alex, I hope you got your pick in over on the Underdog app, as I tried to tell you prior to the game.
You know what? Shame on me for not listening to you there, buddy. After that first at bat, when he went down with 3 pitches and 3 swings, I was like,
by the way.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
Damn.
That did not look good.
Should have jumped on this one earlier.
Later on in the game, had a homer, had a really nice walk late in the game as well. Laid off of that low and away pitch. It looks like a different player at the plate. And I think a lot of that is confidence. Or he's just like, yeah, I don't need to swing at that because I'm going to get my pitch. I'll have another opportunity later. It's been very impressive. T-Bone, you asked us something, though, before the show because it's been impressive. I've liked what we've seen so far from this team, and I've enjoyed watching them. They're fun right now. They've also gone up against some less than stellar pitching so far this year. So what did you look into, and what does it say about the offense?
Yeah, I looked into what the teams they've played, the 4 teams they've played, the Nationals, the Rays, the Mets, and the Tigers, and I was curious, okay, what have these pitching staffs done, right? Because, I mean, we all saw it with the eye test without even looking up the numbers. Man, that Nationals pitching staff sucks. So I was curious, what have those teams done since they haven't played the Cardinals? And the Nationals have the worst ERA in baseball at 6.06.
That makes sense.
The Rays have the 5th worst ERA in baseball, 5.04, right ahead of the Cardinals at 4.95. The Detroit Tigers have the 9th worst ERA in baseball at 4.40. And the Mets, the one team that really shut down that Cardinals offense, they have the 4th best ERA in all baseball at 2.9. So when I saw these numbers, I'm trying to figure out, because it's a small sample size, so it's tough to know right now, is this, boy, the Cardinals have gone up against some bad pitching staffs, as these numbers suggest, or is it these pitching staff's numbers are bad because they've gone up against the Cardinals offense, which is doing all this damage?
The Nationals are a bad pitching staff.
Yeah.
That pitching is
I think
bad.
Tampa is, too, for the injuries that they've suffered.
Maybe.
When they get guys back, I think they'll be in a better position.
Yeah, I think that very well may be the case. New York's a really good pitching staff, and we also saw that against the Cardinals. Like, those 3 games were 4-2, 3-0, and 2-1. Those were low-scoring affairs. The Cardinals were able to win that in a very different style than they've been playing for most of the season. Detroit's the one I just don't know. I think that was just like, I think the Cardinals' offense was good in that series. So that one, to me, speaks more to the Cardinals' offense. I would say it ultimately comes out, as is typically the answer in these scenarios, somewhere in the middle. But I think the Cardinals, I don't think this is a top 10 offense. But if Walker is real, I think they could at least be respectable. And that's a hell of a lot better than what I was anticipating coming into the season, personally.
I 100% agree with you. If you have Walker like this the rest of the season, I think you're a top half of the league offense. And I didn't expect that. I expected you to be bottom 10 offense, and I expected your pitching to be bottom 10. Now, your pitching's probably going to remain bottom 10. I mean, I look at that Detroit game, and I look at the Mets game, and I say that's going to be what the Cardinals are this season. To where, like, you're going to have a couple of games where you're going to go off and you're put up 6 runs. But you're also going to have to win a majority of games when you go up against really good pitching, 3-0, 2-1. Like, it's going to have to be that elite defense and small ball that wins you baseball games with the potential to pop off every once in a while. But if Walker is this, if Walker is legit a threat that can hit home runs for you and just be a presence in the middle of your order, yeah, I think you're 12 through 15 in terms of the offenses in Major League Baseball.
I think this is going to regress a little bit for both, right? I think some of it is, yeah, the Tigers pitching staff will be a little bit better because they're really the one outlier when you think of the names in that rotation. That being said, I am not sure they're as good as we thought coming into the year because the Cardinals saw Valdez. He's really good. Flaherty doesn't look like a guy that's going to be bouncing back. And then they saw their 6th starter because Verlander's on the IL. Let's just be honest, Verlander's old. But I think they will fall back a little bit, but I'm thinking like 15 to 20 range. I'm not thinking that they will fall off to what Alex was saying, which was my expectation coming into the year, which is, man, this is a bottom 10, honestly, potentially a bottom 5 offense in baseball. I don't think that's the case. And if they have a top 15 to 20th best offense in Major League Baseball, with this pitching staff, they can be a 75 to 80 win team compared to like potentially 65 to 70 wins if they were bottom 10 in both categories.
He's T-Bone, that's Alex, I'm BK. It's 11:15, your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. We'll be joined by Joey Vitale coming up in about 20 minutes on BK and Ferrario. We'll hear from you throughout the day at 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Also on YouTube at the YouTube chat, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Earlier today, over on my Twitter account at BK Sports Talk, I asked a question that was generated, honestly, by T-Bone. Would you lock in Spencer Torkelson's season from a year ago for Jordan Walker this year? If you had the option to do so, would you hit that button, or would you press your luck and hope for a little bit more? We'll talk about Jordan Walker, what he did once again yesterday, and the company that he's keeping in the early portion of the season. It's quite impressive. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
He smashes that towards center. Young on the fly. Warning track. Whoa! Jordan does it again. Walker with a home run to extend the lead. His 4th home run in the last 5 days.
This is getting ridiculous. Jordan Walker is off to an absolute heater. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. That's what it sounded like yesterday on Cardinals TV. Let's start out with this. I'm so happy for the kid. I'm so happy for him, man. Because he has had such a weird start to his major league career. You had the early call-up. They basically cleared the path for him, and he had a good 2 weeks in spring training, and they said, good job, boy. Here you go. Let's get you up to the major league level. And then a few weeks in, he had that hitting streak, and they sent him down. And then he comes back up and has success the rest of the way, and it's just been awful the last 2 years. Legitimately one of the least productive major league hitters in the sport. So this year you come in, and we all know we had very low expectations, and we were talking more about when is he pulled from the lineup than where is he going to hit when he gets bumped up into the order within the lineup. And yet here we are. We're 2 weeks into the regular season. He's batting cleanup for you, and it's not out of necessity. It is based upon the fact that he is your best hitter right now. This is the guy that's doing damage in the order. He now has 5 home runs in the first 12 games of the regular season. Danny Wexelman tweeted this out yesterday, who I think is doing a really good job, by the way, on the Cardinals broadcasts. Jordan Walker is the first Cardinal with 5 home runs in his first 12 games of the season before turning 24 years old. No caveat, just the first one ever to do that. I think that's a reminder of just how young this kid still is, and how there was always still so much more time for him to be able to make good on his obvious talents. I wanted to take this a step further, though, Alex. So me and T-Bone did a little research earlier today. You ready?
Uh-oh.
Mostly him. I just sat there and listened. I was like, oh, that guy's kind of good.
So, as Danny Wexelman mentioned, Walker is the first Cardinal, age 24 or younger, with at least 5 home runs in his first 12 games. I wanted to expand that list. What about if you look at Major League Baseball? Who are the other guys to do so? And when you do a search like that, some of the players that come up are kind of like Jeremy Hazelbaker types that come up in the middle of the season, have an unbelievable 12-game stretch, and then they play like 30 games in their Major League careers, and they're just gone forever, right? So I wanted to remove those guys from the equation. So players age 24 or younger, so Walker's age or younger, they had at least 5 home runs in their first 12 games of the season, and they played at least half of the season at the big league level. So they were regulars at the big league that year. Here are the players to do so, Alex, over the last decade. Ivan Herrera did exactly this last year, actually, to start out the season for the St. Louis Cardinals. Soderstrom with the A's, Christopher Morel, William Contreras, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Rafael Devers, Ronald Acuna Jr. did it twice. Yordan Alvarez, Austin Meadows, Pete Alonso, Cody Bellinger also did this twice. Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, Trevor Story.
Did you guys hear any good names on that list?
Yeah, no,
I
not
didn't
many.
really hear any. For a couple of them, I don't even know who they are.
So some of them, like Christopher Morel, did not become ultimately the player that he looked to be early on in his career. Austin Meadows, same thing for him. You've had a couple other guys that injuries ultimately derailed their careers. Cody Bellinger, I think you could kind of put into that category. Trevor Story, you could definitely throw into that category. But overall, it's a really good list of baseball players. Go beyond that. Just look at that individual season, Alex. What did they produce that year? Only one of them was less than 20% above league average in the year in which they started the way that Jordan Walker has. It was actually Bryce Harper who did this back in 2016. He did not end up having the season that you're typically expecting out of him as a perennial MVP candidate. Go even beyond that. There were 15 players that I mentioned there. Out of those 15 players, 8 received MVP votes in that season. So more than half of the time when you start out the season the way that Jordan Walker has, not necessarily winning the MVP, but receiving some level of votes is in the future.
Man, we went to Mike Trout yesterday to MVP today.
The reason that I'm bringing this up, Alex, is because it's really hard to have this kind of a hot stretch. It just doesn't happen that often in Major League Baseball, especially to begin the season. Hitting 5 home runs in any 12-game stretch is really difficult at the big league level. To be able to do that to begin your season, he's already been worth 1 win this season, according to Baseball Reference. He's been worth -2 for his career. Like, he's already been a better baseball player in the first 12 games of this season than he was in any other 12-game stretch basically in his entire career. So if it sounds like I'm getting out a little over my skis, I would reject that premise. I would say this is exactly the way that we should be discussing Jordan Walker right now. So, Alex, it's a lot of information. I've been talking for 5 minutes now. What do you make of the list that I just brought up and the overall beginning of the season that we've seen from Jordan Walker?
Look, I think yesterday when we talked, like, I got this narrative on me that, like, I'm not rooting for Jordan Walker. It's not true. I want him to be successful. I'm very hesitant to get overly excited. I can get excited and be hyped about this because Jordan Walker's doing something that you just haven't seen him do yet. So, yeah, there's excitement there. And when you read me that list, it's like, okay, well, that's what the ceiling was originally for Jordan Walker, not Bryce Harper or Manny Machado, but you're talking about the upper echelon of players that you're putting into your lineup. That's what the hope was all along for Jordan Walker. But I think my hesitancy, and why I'm not going to see the list and all of the numbers that you threw at me and be like, yep, it's fixed, we're good, is because it's only 2 weeks. And I want to see a larger sample size than this, because I was looking at this yesterday when we were talking, or after the show, and I was trying to find, like, okay, did he have a hot stretch at any point that was close to resembling what he's doing right now? Now, the home runs, no, because he's never done this to hit this many home runs in a small window.
Considering he had 5 home runs in 2024 and 6 last year over the course of 162 games combined, yeah, I would say he's never done this.
It was easy to isolate that research. But last season I looked at in May to June, about a 2-week sample size, 13 games. He had 2 doubles, 1 home run, 1 triple, 10 RBIs. He struck out 15 times. A slash line of 357, 500, 857. It's not what he's doing now, but it's pretty close to it.
I remember that, though. It was very different.
Sure.
It was all batted ball luck.
Sure.
Because I remember we talked about it at the time, and that was when I did my nerdy number stats, where some people were like, BK, why can't you just have fun with this?
Yeah, Brandon.
And I was like, nothing has actually changed with his process.
Yeah.
He's still swinging and missing at the same pitches. He's still going up there and, like, yes, he does make contact occasionally, and when he does, it looks really good, but the process is the same. He's just getting better results. What makes me a believer this time around, as opposed to that one you're talking about, Alex, because I think it's a fair point to bring up, is that the process has actually tangibly changed this time, where he is laying off of the low and away slider. T-Bone has brought up a number of times the fact that he's also laying off from lefties the low and inside pitch. He has not swung at a single one of them so far this year. He's waiting for pitches that he can do damage against, and then he's getting his A swing off against them. That pitch selection and recognition is what makes it different this time around to me. So I'm agreeing with you, Alex. He has had moments in the past where he's had similar production, not as good, but similar. This time, the process is actually matching the results, and that's what makes me believe.
And I agree with you, because on the Nationals broadcast, I think it was after their first game, we cited it on the show of just how their analyst was talking about Jordan Walker. It feels different, but it's why I'm very timid about it, to where it's like, because he went 1 for 31 in the next 8 games. So it's why I see this, and I'm like, yes, I absolutely hope that Jordan Walker is fixed, and let's keep building off of this. But I'm also not going to act as if it's completely fixed. I just want a little bit larger of a sample size with Jordan Walker. I can celebrate it, but also be very hesitant.
And I agree with you there, because, like, every time that we continue to see him have success game after game, and then we find more numbers like the ones that BK just referenced with those players, I get more excited about it. But the reason I still don't want to buy in yet, and maybe this is unfair to him, but I would say it's not, considering it's kind of his doing of this, which is, man, most of those names that you brought up on that list, they didn't have a 2-year stretch where they were 32% below the average. And that's what makes him the outlier and what makes him really hard to judge. Because if we were talking about a guy that he was doing this after his rookie year where he was 13% above league average, we would all be here probably sitting through the first 11 games or 12 games of the year going, yep, definitely the year. Definitely the year he's taking off getting MVP votes. We can't just erase what happened the last 2 years. Now, maybe it is all fixed, and it is, you know what, him and Brant Brown and the work he's done in the offseason, it's all going to sustain. but I still can't help keeping in the back of my mind of, man, there's not a lot of guys that do what Walker did over the last 2 years that suddenly just flip the switch and are 20 to 30% above league average. It's why I want to see the bigger sample size still, to where I'm with you. I'm excited about all the numbers we're talking about, and right now he looks great. And I'm not saying he's going to flame out. I'm hoping that's not the case. But I need a bigger sample size to know that these are actually changes that are going to sustain for not a sprint, but the marathon that is the baseball season.
I think that is a far more reasonable way to look at this than what I'm doing. But I'm allowing myself to get carried away with
Walker
it.
jersey tattoo scheduled for today.
Everyone should be very excited about this. Like, there's absolutely no doubt about it. It's just I'm protecting my heart here, Brandon. You're laying it on the line.
I
I'm
wouldn't
protecting
get so
it.
excited I start putting on props. Like, I felt like a little much yesterday.
I fall for these things hard with the Cardinals. You fall for them hard with the Blues.
I never do that, right?
When we fall in love,
oh
boy, do we get swept away.
Yes, we do.
It's you get to feel something. And that's the great thing about sports is one way or another, we're going to feel a little something this year, whether it's heartbreak or for the first time, really enjoying the hell out of watching Jordan Walker on the baseball field in a way that we always hoped that we would be able to. 5 home runs in his first 12 games. It's been a remarkable start to the season. Hopefully, he's able to continue that this weekend against the Boston Red Sox. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Questions and answers here in about 15 minutes. I think Joey Vitale is going to join us next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they host the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario and puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Gerber and Joey Vitale. Last night, the Cardinals took down the Nationals 6-1 as they take 2 of 3 from Washington. They are off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow night when they start a 3-game set with the Boston Red Sox. 7:15 will be first pitch. And Dustin May will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Five games left in the Blues regular season. They continue tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. Pregame for that one starts at 6. Puck drop at 7. Alex will have pregame for you. Joey Vitale and Chris Gerber on the call starting at 7 o'clock. Joe joins us now via the Callier and Thompson hotline. Blues analyst for both 101 ESPN and, of course, FanDuel Sports Midwest. Joe, appreciate the time, man. How you doing this morning?
Joey! Joe Vitale, 5 games left.
What's going on, boys? What's going on?
Oh, we're hanging in, man. So it looks like there's going to be some lineup changes tonight. Would you see a morning skate today?
Yeah, I tell you what, it looks like Nathan Walker's going to play in with Otto Stenberg. It's going to be great to see Nathan's energy back in the lineup. I'm excited to see Otto Stenberg. You know, he's a young player. You don't want to see him out of the lineup too long because there's so much growth and development for the young kid. And I think, to be fair, I think, you know, his game's dropped off here a little bit. And looking to hopefully kind of give this a little spark for him. He watched a couple games here recently to get out there now and to do his thing. So with that, Jonathan Drouin is going to draw out. And then the first scratch of the year tonight for Pius Suter. And we asked Jim Montgomery moments ago, is it a health-related issue? And he said no. He just sees that Pius has played some great hockey for this ball club here, and he just wants to see him get a little reset. You know, he said he will be in for the Chicago game come Saturday early evening there in Chicago. So definitely some lineup changes and some moves around. Looks like Buchnevich is going to bump up to that third line in the center again. So a little bit of changes, and then Jordan Binnington in the cage against Connor Hellebuck should be a fun matchup.
Joe, I want to hone in on Pavel Buchnevich because you and I had the conversation a couple of games ago about him playing on the fourth line, and could that be a role for him moving forward? Going back to the center position, do you believe that they view Pavel Buchnevich as a long-term answer at the center spot, or is he kind of like a Swiss Army knife for Jim Montgomery?
You know, I think that Alex, I think he's at his best when he's playing on the wing. But you know what? You got to get him a really good playmaking centerman. That's the key, right? So I think this year for the Blues, it was Braden Shen at the very beginning. They brought in Pius Suter. Just didn't have quite the magic I think they were hoping for. So that's why they moved Buchnevich to the middle. You know, it's tough because he's one of the best defending forwards on this team. He's so cerebral. He's great on the kill. And when you have a smart hockey player like Pius Suter and Robert Thomas, you want those guys in the middle because they control the pace, they control the play, they're organized on faceoffs, they're dictating orders in the D zone. So for such a smart player like Buchnevich, you'd love to see him in the middle. But I think he's at his best when he's on the wing, when he's kind of taking his time, he's visualizing the game. He can be a step or two ahead by just seeing things develop. The question mark is, do the Blues have a centerman in their system? Is it Dvorsky, or do they got to find someone maybe this summer that can complement Buchnevich in that regard?
We're talking to Joey Vitale here on 101 ESPN. One of his wingers tonight is expected to be Jake Neighbors. He's gone through a tough dry spell when it comes to his scoring, Joe. What have you seen from him that's led to the scoring drought recently?
You know, for Jake, it's a tough go. I mean, everyone goes through these little moments and phases in the season. You know, he went through that last road trip where he had a couple games there where he had multiple assists. So you love to see that. You were hoping that was going to kind of give a little bit of a spark. You know, he had one game there on that last road trip. Well, I think it was in Anaheim. He hit the crossbar late when they were needing the lead. He's had some good looks. You know, when Jake's at his very best, and the best season he had a couple years ago, you know, so much of his production came from the power play, BK. And not only do you get production on the power play, but that kind of gives you that jolt. It gives you the confidence. It gives you the point system where you're like, okay, I'm going to go out there now 5-on-5 and continue to play. So for a lot of players, whether it be, let's look at a Nathan McKinnon or even a Connor McDavid, when 5-on-5 you're getting shut down a little bit, and the Blues have done their fair share of this, all of a sudden you get out there on the power play, you get a goal, you get an assist, and that kind of gives you that surge of energy, right? And I think that's kind of what's been hurting for Jake this year from a point standpoint is that, he's had moments where his points have fallen off. He's not getting a lot of chances 5-on-5. But then all of a sudden you put him out there in the power play and he gets a backdoor tap in, or he makes a nice little play on the power play to get a primary assist. So I think the power play struggles, not only for the team this year, but Jake individually and him kind of being jumped around and thrown around different units, that to me has really hindered his offense and part of the point production totals. And it's a shame too, because Jim Montgomery had such great things to say about Jake just moments ago, talking about him as a leader, what he does on, but especially off the ice, the way he just gathers everyone together. He's got a nickname for everyone, always inviting guys to dinner and pickleball. And this is just a leader to the core. And when you have a player like this, you pull for him, right? You want to see him have point production. You want to see him have success. And you know what, from a fans and all the players and coaches alike, including broadcasters like me, I don't know if there's a Blues player right now that I'm pulling more for. Like if there was a game tonight and it was an overtime game and it's 0-0 and there's one guy that's going to score and end this thing between them and the Jets tonight, you just want to see 63 have some success because of what he does from a leadership standpoint. I don't know if there's a Blues player that cares more in that locker room than Jake, and you'd love to see him kind of break through tonight, and maybe tonight's the night.
Joe, you mentioned him on the power play, and just big picture on the power play. They've scored 7 power play goals since they've returned from the Olympic break, and we've had the longest conversation throughout the last couple of years of what they've been missing on that power play, and it's that one-time threat. Do you look at it now and still feel like they're missing that, or is there another element that's missing on that power play?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for a while there we had Dylan Holloway there on that setup, and, you had Jimmy Snuggerud on the one side. And, I think the philosophy for the power Thomas there on that Snuggerud side because they just want the puck in his hands. When Thomas is going as good as he's going, and he just about as good as any player in the National Hockey League right now. The way he's making passes through bodies, under sticks, he's distributing. He's not even looking at the guy he's passing to. When you're that good with the puck, you got to find a way to make sure that guy has the puck on his stick as much as possible. So Thomas comes in there on that right side, and now he's going to replace Jimmy Snuggerud. So that one-time threat for Snuggerud you had on that right side, now you got one of your best playmakers. So I'm okay with that. But you do lose a one-timer. The question becomes, when do they maybe reignite this Dalibor Dvorsky or Dylan Holloway left-handed shot? We saw it at Spurs this year. It's where Dvorsky had the majority of his offensive success coming in October, November. He scored his first NHL goal there on that side. When he hit the one-timer, he did it 2 other times in that following couple weeks. So that is something certainly, Alex, to keep an eye on down the stretch of the rest of the season, but definitely in the offseason, because to me, I never found that a power play without a one-timer is going to have as much success. So it's certainly an area of emphasis coming into this offseason for this Blues team. They had a little bit in spurts, but definitely when you have a power play that can win you games, it's going to gain you points. I mean, we're talking if the Blues could have gotten, 6, 7, 8 more power play goals post-Olympic break, right? You're talking maybe a difference of 3 or 4 more points. And that's kind of the difference right now as far as how far you're back.
He's Joey Vitale. You'll hear him on the call tonight for the Blues game against the Winnipeg Jets. Alex will have pregame coverage. Joey with Chris Kerber tonight at 7 as we wind things down in the regular season for the St. Louis Blues. Joe, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy yourself tonight. We'll talk with you again next week.
Hey, sounds good, boys. You guys have a great week as well.
Same to you. As Joey Vitale joining us here on 101 ESPN as he does each and every Thursday on BK and Ferrario. Exactly 1 week remaining, Alex, in the regular season. How you feeling about that?
Bittersweet, I would say.
Yeah.
Wanted the playoffs, but the offseason's there. Can enjoy it a little bit. With 3 little ones at home, you find yourself looking forward to offseason every once in a while.
I thought you were going to say you're looking forward to the playoffs.
Well, I always look forward to the playoffs.
It has felt like a really long year this year.
Well, look at the team.
Yeah. The roller coaster of
the 3-week break.
Because
the
it felt
Olympics.
like last season went so fast. because of how well
Because of
they
the
played
finish,
down the stretch.
sprint to the finish.
And,
yeah.
and like I've always had this mindset, just for me personally. Everybody enjoys playoffs, but if the team is going to get bounced in the first round, like if you look at it and you're like, you're inferior to them, it's just kind of like I'd rather miss the playoffs and build towards something for the next year than go in and get swept and act like everything's fine. And so it was just one of those things this year specifically, and I've said this so many times, like I found myself rooting that they don't make the playoffs because I want them to be engaged in October and November. So there's a lot of different thoughts flowing in when you get to the end of the regular season.
Blues in action tonight. They also will see the Florida Panthers in action this evening. And that is a team that you should be paying attention to along with the Toronto Maple Leafs, because if those teams were to win tonight and you are to lose tonight, you would, I believe, jump ahead of them in the NHL draft standings to get the 6th best odds for the number 1 overall selection.
I would say don't bank on that, though, because the Maple Leafs are going up against the Islanders, who have Pete DeBoer as their head coach now, so they're going to be motivated. And then the Florida Panthers, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I think like 8 of their starting 18 8 of their 18 starting players that were in the lineup to begin the season are not available due to injuries. Because they want that pick.
Well, Seattle's playing tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights, so at least there's that one.
Yeah, that's good. Because reminder, if the Panthers stay in the top 10, they get that pick.
Correct.
If they fall out of it, it goes to Chicago. So I think they'd be pretty motivated to get that top 10 pick now, rather than worry about it next year.
Toronto's pick is protected top 5.
Top 5.
Right?
So if they fall out of the top 5, then it goes to Boston.
They need to get up.
Yes. So
they need to keep losing.
To keep losing.
All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers is coming up next.
Alex Ferrario back with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care. As you know, the weather changed from like 50 degrees a couple of days ago to 80 degrees today. This is that HVAC system doing a little extra work. If you're like me and my wife, we flip it from heat to air, from heat to air. It's a lot of work for that HVAC, especially if you have an older one. It's why you need to use a company that, 1, provides trust to you, and 2, provides knowledge, and that's Classic Air Care. They've been making people comfortable since 1926. It's incredible quality of service and trust. Every single time I have used them since 2016, my dad has been using them since the 90s at his house, all because of what they provide. And right now, in the month of April, they're offering a $79 AC tune-up for you, which what that means is coming out, they're cleaning the unit, they're checking it, they're fine-tuning it for you, making sure that that air conditioner is ready to go for the upcoming summer season. You could schedule online, or you could give them a call. Incredible customer service that they have over there as well. Also ask about the maintenance program, and ask about their filter service that they have, to where they'll send you furnace filters every month to remind you that you need to be changing them. Call them today, schedule online, do me a favor and tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. From the 801, guys, do you think Carbonneau next year could replace what Kyrie's production is this year?
Yeah, this year, I think it's possible. Not his expected numbers, but what he has done, yeah, I think he could do it.
I think you could get him to 15 to 20 goals. Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
You have to make sure you have a really good center. Whether you acquire one to play in the second line and Dvorsky's playing with him, or you acquire one to play with him, you got to get a playmaking center.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, who do you feel will be the Cardinals' primary catcher the rest of this season?
I think it's Herrera is the goal.
Yeah.
I still think that's the plan. I think they're slowly working them in. Now, it happened to just be, I think, scheduling coincidence, but he caught 2 of 3 this series against the Nationals. Mm-hmm. The reason I say that might be just coincidence because both McGreevy and Palante, who it looks like he's paired with, are his battery mates. But I think by the end of the month, it's going to be normal that he's catching 2 out of every 3 games in a series, you know? So I think that's still the plan for him to be the primary catcher. Now, the backup is a different conversation. It's either Pages or maybe Jimmy Crooks if he keeps this up, but I think the plan is Herrera.
I think by the time you hit June, Crooks is going to be your backup, unless Pages goes on some type of tear.
I'd like to believe that. They value Pedro Pages. Whether we like that or not, they do. So as of today, I would say I'm not quite as high as T-Bone is on the 2 out of 3. I think they're looking at it more from a full week schedule. I think it would be like if they have the 6-man rotation, he's with 3 of them. And you'll get like a 50-50 split between Herrera and Pedro Pages. I think that's what you see early on and then kind of figure it out from there. But yeah, I'll go Herrera is your quote-unquote primary catcher the rest of the way. From the 801, guys, what's the ceiling for Dalibor Dvorsky?
I still think the ceiling's a second-line center. I think people see the numbers and say, like, well, he can't be a second-line center because he doesn't have enough offense. Like, David Krejci is one that always comes to mind because, like, Krejci was typically a 50 to 60-point producer. Like, that's what he was. He had a couple of seasons where he put up 70 points, but he only scored 20 goals 3 or 4 times. But David Krejci was the number 2 to Patrice Bergeron for how good of a centerman he was defensively and how he could chip in offensively. I think Dalibor Dvorsky is really good defensively. I think he's had slip-ups at times. I think he's probably going to float in between like 40 to 60 points when he has the wingers that can put pucks in the back of the net. But I think this year is kind of took people off the scent of Dalibor Dvorsky as a number 2 because the numbers don't look well. I think a lot of that is, 1, the team underwhelming, 2, him learning the NHL, and 3, you just haven't had the wingers that match the ability to play with a guy like Dalibor Dvorsky.
I think for a contender, number 3 center. I also know that half of the league is looking for a number 2 center.
Yeah.
So it's possible he could fit into that role. You'll just have to if you have an underwhelming second-line center, it just means you need that much more out of your wingers. This is the case for anything, right? If you're not great defensively, you've got to be that much better offensively. If you're not great in net, like Colorado a few years ago, they didn't have great goaltending, but they had an unbelievable offense to where it didn't matter. Edmonton never has good goaltending, but they've got Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid in one of the highest-scoring offenses that we've seen in recent memory, so they're able to make up for those issues. So can he be a number 2 center on a really good team? Of course, of course. There's nothing that you can't truly overcome. It just puts that much pressure on everything else when you have something that you need to overcome.
I think Dalibor Dvorsky could have a year next year the same way that Bolduc had the year last year for the Blues, to where it was like, I'm not too sure about this, and then all of a sudden it popped off and he finished the year with 19 goals and 36 points. I don't think the points are the same, but I think the way we felt about Bolduc, to where it's like, yeah, that's a middle 6 scoring winger, is what you'll feel about Dalibor Dvorsky next year.
I will say this about him. I just don't know how much he drives offense. I think he is a good goal scorer, and I don't mean this to sound as critical as it is. He's also 20 years old. Yeah. He's got a lot of time. I'm not overly concerned about it, but
he's not a playmaker.
Yeah, maybe that's the better way to frame it.
He drives it in a different way. He drives it with a forecheck. He drives it where he will win battles along the board, but the passes aren't going to be elite like Robert Thomas.
It's just a very different style than what I've become accustomed to at the center position here in St. Louis. That's neither good nor bad. It's just quite different.
Honestly, people aren't going to like this comparison, and I'm not going to say they're the same player, but he plays a little like what you just saw in Nazem Kadri with Colorado. To where Kadri's not a playmaker. Kadri's a guy that just goes to the net. He'll put the puck in. He'll retrieve pucks, and you have to have really good wingers with you to finish plays. That's where Dalibor Dvorsky thrives.
That's actually pretty interesting.
And it's kind of Krejci was in Boston, because Krejci played a lot with Brad Marchand, and, well, what do you get with that? You know, you get a lot of that when you're moving guys towards it, and you have guys that can actually finish plays with a centerman who's not the most elite at how he goes about it.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Mizzou getting off to a pretty good start in the portal if we are to believe some of the reports that are coming out today. We'll get into that in 15 minutes. But next, do want to get back into Jordan Walker. Would you lock in these numbers for Jordan Walker, or would you press your luck? We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So earlier today, we brought up Jordan Walker. If you missed it, we had a conversation about what his start to the season has historically meant. Basically, if you get off to this kind of a start, 5 home runs, first 12 games of the season, you're his age, you're really, really good that year. It doesn't always translate long term, but for at least that season, you're like 20+% above league average. But T-Bone brought up before the show, guy that we discussed last year, who had a similar start to his career to Jordan Walker, where it was uneven. Spencer Torkelson, a former top prospect in Major League Baseball, a legit power hitter for the Detroit Tigers. And last year, he got off to a similarly hot start. If you remember, when the Cardinals played the Tigers early on last season, he was in the midst of an absolute tear for them. And in the first half, he hit 21 home runs in his first 91 games. He was ridiculous. And it was a big part of why the Detroit Tigers were able to get off to that roaring start early on last season. At the end of the year, he hit 240, Spencer Torkelson did. He got on base about 33% of the time, and he was 17% above league average offensively. Now, the volume statistics, though, I think speak more to the kind of year that Torkelson had and the impressive nature of his year. He had 27 doubles, 31 homers, and 78 RBI. Those are the kinds of numbers that I think a lot of Cardinals fans would dream about for Jordan Walker. So I asked this question on Twitter. I'll ask it of you guys as well. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. I'm on Twitter at BK Sports Talk. If you had the option today to lock that in, you get Spencer Torkelson's 2025 season, and that's what you write next to Jordan Walker's 2026 campaign. Would you lock that in, Alex? Or are you pressing your luck and hoping for something a little bit more?
Pressing my luck, man. You told me he's going to hit 70 this year. Why wouldn't I? He's on pace for 60. No, you'd be crazy not to press that button. If this was Jordan Walker's rookie year, I'd be saying, don't touch that button. We're letting this bad boy ride and seeing what it looks like. But because we have gone through 3 seasons of Jordan Walker, the inability to really get right, if you're telling me that those are the numbers at the end of the season, I am smashing that button because that's the best case scenario. Now, not to add a secondary layer to this, but I also would ask and venture the question of, does that really fix your issues if he doesn't become that permanently? It's just 1 year of it. But that could be another conversation.
Yeah, I would smash this button in a heartbeat just because I think Walker needed a year of stabilization, right? I think he desperately needed a year. Even if he was just league average this year, I would have called that a huge win for the St. Louis Cardinals since he was a guy that was so below league average for 2 straight years. I get it if someone would say, hey, man, look at what he's doing now. This is a guy that was supposed to project even better than that, not just be a 30-homer guy, but be a guy that could be in an MVP conversation, be 30% above league average. I think that would be more of a conversation I would be willing to have a year after. He's able to lock in just a year of doing this and get back to what he was. I don't even think this is actually fair. But I was going to say get back to what he was as a rookie, but even better than a rookie, to where he's keeping the ball off the ground a little bit more and he's hitting more of those line drives like he did in the second half of that rookie year. So, yeah, I would hit this in a heartbeat, and then I can dream even bigger the year after that. But I just need a year of him stabilizing.
Sweep it. We're all on the same page here. And I say this as somebody that's, I'm thrilled with what we're seeing from Walker, and I'm kind of buying in. Well, I am buying in. I'm a believer in what we're seeing.
Hat's over there.
Yeah, I was going to say, go back to last.
I do, though, have the fear of what we saw in 2024, I guess it would be. He was good in 23, guys. This was basically his 2023 season. Not the same volume statistics, but he was about 15% above league average offensively, which is almost exactly what Torkelson was last year. He just came about it in a different way. He hit for a little bit more average. He didn't quite have the same amount of pop, but he was really good that first year when he was up at the big league level, and then it just completely disappeared. So my fear would be I'm wrong on this, and 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road, he reverts back to his same old habits. He becomes a 15% below league average hitter. And what does that do for his confidence? At that point, I think you're just lost, and it's done for Jordan Walker. So if you're telling me the rest of the year, this is a guy that is well above league average offensively, and he's able to carry that into the offseason, and really for the first time in Jordan Walker's entire professional career, he's able to walk around Major League Baseball with a little bit of confidence. Think about what that does for him. Because basically his entire career, he's been asked about what he's not what he is. Because even after that first year, it was, well, you're not yet a home run hitter. You're not yet getting the ball off of the ground. When is that going to come? If you tell me that he's locked in 31 home runs, we're not going to have a whole lot of questions about the home run power or his ability to, have the right angles on his swing path. This would allow him to just walk around with a swagger that he's never been able to carry before. And I think Alex, especially as somebody like you that really believes in the mental side of all of these things, I think there's a lot of power in that if you're Jordan Walker.
Yeah, there absolutely is. I mean, you just have to know that you belong in Major League Baseball, because I have to imagine the mind of Jordan Walker is, I think I belong, but the last 3 seasons I've been in AAA for a large portion of it. I can't make my way in Major League Baseball. It might not work out for me. And all of those things have to go into your head. I mean, think about what you do in your daily life. Every once in a while, I have a bad show, and you're like, hey, I don't think I'm good at this.
I never think you have a bad show, buddy, but
I thought he was going to say, I think that same thing when you leave. But anyway, that's what I would have responded with. So good on you, man, to be a good friend. I just no matter what, you always have the negative thoughts that seep in. But now imagine being a pro athlete where you are paid to always be great. And you just have to finish a season to where it's like, I not only can play in this league, I just put up 30 home runs in this league. And that going into another offseason of being like, okay, now I got it. Now you can fine-tune your skills rather than try and even figure out what your skills are at Major League Baseball.
How many Cardinals under the age of 24 do you think have had a 30 home run season?
Under the age of 24?
Pujols.
Yeah.
Musial.
Nope.
I don't know if he was.
I have no idea. Probably. I think, wasn't he like World War II at the time for that? I'm going to say
he might be
Pujols. How old was O'Neill?
Oh, he may have been.
I'll say O'Neill.
I think he was older. I think it's Pujols. That's it.
It's one. There's been one Cardinal in the history of the organization.
We were trying to be so smart.
According to Baseball Reference, that had more than 30 home runs under the age of 24. Now, if you extend it, like 25 or younger, Paul DeYoung had 30 home runs in 2019. He was 25. Fernando Tatis, not junior, obviously.
I'd rather have junior.
Had 34 home runs in 1999 as a 24-year-old. And Joe Ducky Medwick, back in 1937, was 25 years old when he led the league with 31 home runs.
Yeah, good old Ducky.
This is the kind of accomplishment you can't just wave away. It's just rare, especially for this organization, to have somebody at that age, especially who profiles the way that Walker has, to have this kind of power at the big league level. They've been searching for this literally for 20 years. And so for me to say, no, that's not good enough, forget whatever Walker was supposed to be. This is pretty damn good, man. Don't let great be the enemy of good in this scenario. I'll just accept the good player and hope that he can eventually become great. This would be a really nice stepping stone season for somebody like Jordan Walker. So I'd sign up for it today. Speaking of young players, you see Connor Griffin of the Pirates signed a $140 million contract extension yesterday, Alex?
No.
9 years, 100 and he wasn't listening. 9 years, $140 million for Connor Griffin, who turns 20 years old on April 24th. He is 19 years old today. 19.
God, that'd been nice to have at 19.
Yeah, right.
Be nice to have at 34.
I'm sure for some, the conversation now jumps back to, okay, what does this mean for J.J. Weatherholt? First of all, he's not seeing anything close to that money. Even if he signed a big contract, he got the extension from the Cardinals, he wouldn't see that kind of money. The reason why is age.
Oh, I was going to ask, is it because of the power potential?
Yes, but also the bigger thing here is the age.
Gotcha.
For the Pirates, if you're them, the reason you sign a contract like this is because you believe his prime years will be like from age 25 to 28. You wouldn't have been able to get any of those years unless you signed this contract. Because under the current way that things are operating, he'd be a free agent at 26. He'd be able to go to market at the same age as like Manny Machado did, or when I think it was Bryce Harper was 26 years old when he had free agency as well. And so you don't actually get access to the prime years of their major league careers. We saw it with Machado. We saw it with Bryce Harper, what they ultimately became for their new teams. So if you're the Pirates, it's a It's a pretty penny to pay. You're probably overpaying, honestly, for the next 6 years. But the reason you do so is for access to those later years into their mid-20s. The Cardinals already have access to that with J.J. Weatherholt. They don't have to sign an extension. Through the arbitration system, they've already got it.
Yeah.
So I would not argue for them to do this right now. I would not argue for them to extend him unless you get much better terms on the deal than something like this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the age thing makes total sense, but I also just don't know if J.J. Weatherholt is ever going to be that high paid of a player. So I wouldn't jump the gun with this one. I mean, you've got his control in the prime years. I would utilize that and just kind of play this process out.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't think you give him the money for Griffin, and I don't want to do a contract extension for someone that's still unproven at Major League Baseball level. I think I get the thought process of the Pirates. I think the Pirates made a mistake in paying Griffin here as well. You don't know what that guy's going to be yet, and now you just locked yourself into 9 years of potentially a guy that he could ultimately end up becoming like a Cabrian Hayes, for example. They regretted that contract extension immediately. It's not the same money, wasn't even close to it, but they thought he was going to be a guy that was like the pillar of their franchise, and they had to sell low on him when they eventually moved on from him. So I hate doing contract extensions for guys that have barely played baseball at the pro.
I actually like the deal. I think it's a pretty smart deal for the Pirates, but I get the hesitation. I think this was their one chance. If he did become the player that a lot of people believe him to be this year, I don't think you're getting him on a long-term contract extension, and then you're just never going to get those prime years. So it's about the value of those and whether or not you're willing to take on that risk. For me, I think it's worth it. I understand the differing opinion on that. Big news out of Kansas City. The mayor has just announced that he is expecting to unveil today at the city council meeting a $600 million funding plan for a Royals stadium that will take place in downtown. So across I-70, it looks like the Royals have made their move, or are expecting to make their move. It sounds like they will be moving downtown in Kansas City. So big news on the other side of the state. Coming up in 15 minutes, what is the plan with the Blues lineup down the stretch? I think we're at least seeing a glimpse into it with today's lineup. We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. But next, some big news in the college basketball portal. Mizzou off to a pretty good start so far. We'll tell you the latest next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Jackson hanging out in the studio with us as we're getting ready to talk about Mizzou basketball.
I did that one on purpose,
Perfect
didn't you,
timing.
Jackson?
Some positive news. I don't know if Jackson's heard this yet. Sounds like Mizzou's the leader in the clubhouse for Jameer Jones, the small forward out of Providence.
Okay. All right,
Freshman,
here we go.
had a good season last year.
Yep. Kim English coached.
Yeah. According to 24/7 Sports, arguably the most explosive wing in the portal is Providence transfer Jameer Jones. He's oozing with talent. I like that word. And upside, could be on the brink of a breakout sophomore campaign. Multiple teams have been linked to the four-star transfer. Mizzou is who I'm labeling as the favorite in this one, end quote.
Love that. Well, I think that's a need. Trent Pierce, I think, can play that kind of wing role. And he's someone, I think if he wants to get to the next level, that's kind of the role he's going to need to play. But if you can pair that up, if you can have two solid wings, maybe you kind of go with like, I know Jason Crow isn't a ball handler, like a point guard, pure point guard. But if you can't find a point guard, I wouldn't say like you have to go get somebody that you think is going to be like this dynamic point guard. See what Aaron Rowe has, the Columbia native, and maybe Jason Crow runs point, maybe get a couple wings, play a little bigger, find Trent Burns can develop. You have Tony Bryan, him down low. That's
kind of similar to what Illinois ended up doing this year. It wasn't the plan early on, but
Right.
Wagler was not expected to be the starting point guard for that team. He kind of became it, and so Crow would be more in that lane of what you're expecting out of a guard, where it's a scoring guard,
Right.
but it works nonetheless. We'll get you out of here on this, Jackson. I know you've got a million other things to do. I like the fact that they have now been deemed one of the leaders in the clubhouse for Jameer Jones,
Yep.
who's one of the top players in the transfer portal.
Yep.
The forward out of Kansas, it would be the first time a player's ever transferred from Kansas to Missouri. That would be a fun
We
storyline.
did have Parker Braun go Mizzou. Where did he go? He went somewhere in California
And then back to
Kansas, right?
Yep.
Which was
so we've seen
tough.
that. And they are also considered to be one of the possibilities for one of the top Santa Clara players from last year.
Okay, I like that. I think
Shows you they've got money.
I think Dennis
If nothing
Gates
else.
also knows that there's a little bit of fatigue in the fan base with being solid,
Seat's a little warm.
being solid, getting to the dance, but not doing anything and not really being a threat to do anything in the dance. I think he knows that. I think he's going to try to capitalize on the Jason Crow and Tony Bryan situation as best he can to prove to the fan base, prove to the board of curators, like, hey, I want this job for a long time.
More on that with Jackson later on tomorrow on TMA. He'll be in tomorrow morning starting at 7 o'clock. Appreciate him hopping in studio with us here today. That's Jackson here on 101 ESPN. I love this, Alex. My biggest takeaway from all of it, what we've seen so far, now the portal can change in a moment's notice, right? Somebody comes in with a bag and suddenly they're heading elsewhere. Some of these visits do or don't happen based upon where the money situation is. But you don't even get yourself into the conversation without at least having that dollar figure ready to go. There's been a lot of talk about what some of these connections from Tim Fuller, the new general manager for Mizzou basketball. He was with Nike basketball previously. A lot of people have wondered, what is that going to do? What doors will that open up for Mizzou basketball? He is also tight with Bill Laurie, who is a very wealthy businessman here in the state of Missouri. There has been a long history of his dealings with Mizzou basketball. If you're a Mizzou fan, you're certainly familiar. If not, go ahead and look it up. It's more than the time that we have here.
I think they were with the
on
Blues
show.
too, weren't they? The Laurie family?
Yeah. So if this is a signifier, this is kind of the canary in the coal mine situation where, all right, Mizzou has real money to spend this offseason. They're ready to throw their weight around, and they're going to get in on some of these top transfers. That would be a significant change from what we've seen in the past, because even the hits that Mizzou's had, and they've had a few of them in the portal, like they went out and they got Mark Mitchell. They went out and they got Caleb Grill. They've had some good players transfer, quote unquote, down to Mizzou. Hell, Tamar Bates came from Indiana to Mizzou, became a very good player at Mizzou. They kind of bought low on most of those guys. They came in as highly regarded prospects for these other teams, and then they came back to Mizzou after something had gone wrong to one degree or another. This would be them buying high. on some of these guys that had success as freshmen elsewhere. So I'm very curious to see ultimately where this all goes out.
It's the one thing that I think would finally get Mizzou fans to be a little bit more, although I guess it would put more pressure on Dennis Gates, wouldn't you think, in terms of
Better
if you're
win,
going to throw
yeah.
all the money, you better go out there and you better win. So that might make his seat even hotter depending on what Mizzou does next year. But I'm with you there. I mean, you've shown the ability to recruit the 5-star talents. Now you got to strike at the transfer portal, and you've had some success, but it's only been probably a hit here and there while the other 3 or 4 guys haven't, and you haven't had the roster to be able to compete with that. So I think you probably need to strike with, 2, 3 guys? You need to hit with at least 3 of them to put yourself in a position to feel better about where you're at.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Probably got to hit on 3 of them, but I think it's a good sign that they're going after those guys that go big game hunting, because we were talking about this when T.O. Barrett entered the portal. You know, like they've got 2 significant holes on this roster in a year where there is some serious pressure on Dennis Gates to start showing some significant results, especially with the recruiting class that he's bringing in, a top 5 recruiting class. We've seen how high school kids can change the game. Look at how good the freshman class was this past year in college basketball. You can't be having holes on your roster. So if you're going to the portal in a year that's kind of a must-win year for the Tigers, go out and spend big, right? If you've got those resources for you, start throwing the weight around. See if you can bring in a big-time point guard, bring in a big-time big man to really solidify this roster. So instead of going home in the first or second weekend of the tournament, you've got yourself a chance to be a Sweet 16 second weekend type team.
If you could go into next year and you've got Jason Crow Jr. as one of your guards, you're able to get somebody out of the portal that can be one of the other. Maybe he's not an excellent player. Maybe he's not even as good as T.O. Barrett was last year, but he plays and he gets a decent amount of minutes for you. And then you bring in this wing, Jameer Jones from Providence. You've got Trent Pierce. You bring in a big of some kind, right? And then you've got coming off of the bench going into next year, one of the other freshmen that's going to be playing, and then you bring in one other guy from the portal. It's a pretty good top 7, man. At least it has the potential to be a good top 7. And ultimately, that's what your team is going to be judged upon. They'll get other guys. They'll play Aaron Rowe, who was a freshman this year. They'll play Nick Randall probably as well early on in the season. But ultimately, it comes down to, like, what's your top 7 guys? Who are the dudes that are going to be playing when it's crunch time? They've got the potential to be able to put together a really good team if they've got this kind of money to throw around.
Yeah, you've got to be, if you want to go on a tournament run, you've got to be about 7 to 8 deep. Mm-hmm. You know, and I don't know if you necessarily need 8, because, like, I know we would talk about 8 guys with Illinois. They really kind of cut that down to 6, 7 by the time we got to the end of the year.
I know Alex isn't listening based upon the fact that he didn't even respond to that.
I know, because when I said that, I was like, oh, crap. But that's what you need to go on those tournament runs. There's not a lot of teams in the tournament that you see that go 5 guys that end up just going on these magical runs. It doesn't happen anymore. Depth is so key when it comes to the college game. I mean, it's key in the NBA too. Look at it. The best teams in the National Basketball Association are teams that have a good bench. So, yeah, they're going to have to land a couple guys so they can run 7 deep this season. Otherwise, they're going to be disappointing again, right? They could be a tournament team if you don't end up hitting on a couple guys coming off your bench. But if you don't, odds are you're not going to go on a deep run like Mizzou fans want to see this year.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. Alex, don't worry. We're done talking Mizzou basketball. We will talk about the Blues coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they take on the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Carver and Joey Vitale. And the Cardinals took 2-3 from the Nationals with their 6-1 win yesterday. They are off today. They return home tomorrow night when they start a 3-game set with the Boston Red Sox. 7:15 will be first pitch as Dustin May will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alex, we'll get back to the Blues here momentarily, I promise. But we do have to do one more thing on college basketball. Dan Hurley is on the Dan Patrick Show right now, and he was asked about the possibility of retaining Braylon Mullins, who hit the big shot in the NCAA tournament for them. Hurley said, players like Braylon, he probably would make more money at UConn next year than he would if he's the 15th overall selection. Reason I bring this up is because we were just talking about Mizzou, the transfer portal, how much these guys are potentially going to be making. This gives us some context. Braylon Mullins was a really good player for UConn. He was a freshman. He's probably going to be a borderline lottery pick. So a good player that could potentially return to college. If he was selected 15th overall, he would make $4.6 million next year. So there's your rough valuation. Really good college players making more than $5 million in college basketball right now.
Yeah, I don't blame him either. If you're a 15th overall pick and you're going to make more than $4.6 million and get to be the biggest name, I would imagine, or one of the biggest names in college basketball, and try and move yourself up for the draft the next year, yeah, that's the smart way to go.
In this year's class, the 2026 class, way better than what's coming next year. So that's another thing to keep in mind is he could not only continue to improve his game, he could jump up just by virtue of the fact that there's not the same top of the draft as there was this year.
Yeah, and now it's risky too, right? Like you don't have a good year, you get injured. Like you could go from being potentially a 15th overall pick where you're anywhere between, like you said, that $4 to $5 million, and you're sitting either in the NBA playing 82 games with a guaranteed contract, or you're in college basketball, and if you fall off a cliff, you go from the 15th overall pick to potentially out of the first round. It's risky. I actually think this is great for the NBA that more kids might be willing to potentially stay in that middle to later round, because there's so many guys that go to the league that just are not ready, right? Like I think of Will Riley and I think of Kasper Yakuchonis for Illinois from last year. Those guys weren't ready for the league. They're in it. They're getting their money, but they weren't ready. I think it's better for guys as they can continue to season in college basketball as the quote-unquote minor leagues.
All right. Let's get to the Blues side of things here, Alex. I know this is what you're excited for. You here with us, buddy?
I'm fading. It's been a rough 7 days. I'm
behind the curtain. How are you feeling today?
Like a scale of 1 to 10, like a 4, but much better than what I was on Monday when I took off. I was like a -7. So, but yeah, I apologize. I'm here. I'm just... We're battling.
I get the vibe you're here.
We're battling.
That's about all the vibe I'm getting over
I
there.
think your body is here. I'm not sure your spirit is in this room right now.
Well, my body's here for right now.
All right, so the Blues play tonight. They'll be taking on the Winnipeg Jets in what last year was a really good playoff series. This year, maybe not so much. Holloway, Thomas, Snuggie, they're all together once again. But then the lineup changes a lot from there. Neighbors is with Booch and Berggren. So Booch back to the center position. Stenberg back in the lineup with Dvorsky and Kyrou, and then Walker is bumping in on that fourth line with Torpo and Finley. Alex, I heard yesterday, I thought it was a really good interview with Jim Montgomery. He was on with the Fast Lane, and they asked him, hey, can you take us through the thought process behind putting Pavel Buchnevich on that fourth line? What went into that? And he said, well, it was actually about the matchups. It was about what we wanted to do against Colorado specifically because we believed we could match up that fourth line, especially with their top line, and potentially free up the Dvorsky line for more scoring chances. Now, whether or not that worked, whatever, like you can make your own call on that, but that was his explanation on it. When I heard it, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then you see the lineup today, and Booch right back up to that second line at the center position. What do you make of that explanation and what the lineup looks like today?
I think the explanation was my line of thinking when we talked about it yesterday of could this be the permanent spot for Pavel Buchnevich? Because Jim Montgomery likes to have those matchups. You want to get your secondary scoring lines away from the other team's best lines. So what do? You put a Pavel Buchnevich on a fourth line and have a defensive line. That line, I looked back on it in that game on Tuesday against Colorado. They played a total of 15 shifts or 14 shifts against the Nathan McKinnon line.
Wow.
It was like 6 in the first period, 7 in the third, and like 4 in the second period. So he wanted to put them against Nathan McKinnon because that's that depth that you can ask for. I looked at this lineup because I just assumed Stenberg was going to go in for Druin and they were going to keep everything the same. But instead they pulled Pius Suter out, and you heard Joey's explanation for it to where they're like, we just need to give him a reset. They obviously weren't happy with Pius Suter's game, so they said, let's take him out and move Pavel Buchnevich back to the center spot. That line, to me, it doesn't get me excited at all. Like, I don't think that line has the it factor that can generate offense like Thomas line does, or honestly, even the Dvorsky line. That's what I think that Dvorsky line's missing. A guy that can hound the puck, like Stenberg, and a guy that can shoot, like Kyrou. That's what you want for that line. I think, at least in my tinfoil theory mind, I think you're getting a view of Pavel Buchnevich as just a Swiss Army knife, to where you could use him as the center spot, you could use him on the winger, and I think they'd prefer to put him back on the wing permanently, like in the middle six. But you got to get a centerman that can get his best attributes out. But it wouldn't surprise me if you see Pavel Buchnevich move to the fourth line an awful lot, because Jim Montgomery likes to have those matchups to provide depth for his secondary scoring.
I wonder if you could see him kind of move into an Alexander Steen type of a role.
Yeah, or even like what they used with Pius Suter, to where it was like, we've used you on the wing, we've used you at the center spot, but even Jim Montgomery addressed like Pius Suter is a really good Swiss Army knife to have on that fourth line.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan is with Booch. I do wonder if some of this was, hey, we'd like you to play on the fourth line. How do you feel about that? And he's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And they're like, oh, well, it is for the next couple of games. And you'll be a scratch, and then you'll be a fourth liner. And then, we'll address this in the offseason. Mm-hmm. It could be one of those things where this is going to be your reality next year. Are you comfortable with that? And if not, we can try to find a new place for you to be comfortable, kind of a thing, right?
I mean, it could just be the motivation factor, like you're illustrating of. It's like, look, you're not a top six winger for us right now. Like, I know you're playing in that spot. Unless we get an upgrade at the center position, which could happen via trade, could happen via draft, you might be a third-line winger, third-line center, or fourth-line player. But think back to the interview that JR had with his agent when he signed the contract. And, I mean, those are words, but you'd have to wonder, because he talked about, it's like, I don't care where we play, I just want to win. So it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, this is giving us our best chance to win by having you as a fourth-line player for us. Again, I think this is here now. He said Pius Suter's coming back into the lineup on Saturday. Where's Pius Suter going? Maybe he goes to the fourth line. Maybe he just goes and replaces Walker. Or maybe Pavel Buchnevich doesn't have a lot of success at that spot, and they put Suter back there and move Buch down.
The other thing, and this is for the offseason, but so much of what we think we know about the Blues is going to have to change because Doug Armstrong is no longer the primary decision maker. I do wonder, how are they going to operate when it comes to retaining salary and trades in the future? How are they going to operate with buyouts? Is that something that's going to be more on the table now than it was previously? I don't know, and I'm not suggesting they're going to buy out Pavel Buchnevich. That is a boatload of money, and I don't think that's good business.
I think he's more useful to your team than buying him out and paying him to go away.
No doubt. I do think, though, there's a scenario where, hey, maybe it makes sense to spend 50% of his salary. Could you pay the $4 million annually to have him play elsewhere and open up that playing time in your lineup for next year and have that $4 million to spend on something else? Would that make more sense than him being in your lineup? Is that a move that Army would have made? I don't know. Is that a move that Steen will make? I certainly do not know, but I'm very curious to see. He's one of the big decisions you have this offseason. I think the decision has basically been made for you with Jordan Kyrou.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's the biggest decision, but I think they've already decided. It's just a matter of, do you get what you want for him, and is he willing to go to where you're trying to trade him?
I don't know that they have decided on him yet. I don't know. Because I don't know what you can do. I think if you're willing to eat some of the money, it might open things up. I don't know how they feel about
You're
doing
talking
that.
Booch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Pavlovic-Nevich, I think part of it is his decision. And then part of it is, how do the Blues value that player? Do they think this was just a lost season and he'll be fine next year if he's able to train differently during the offseason, get himself fully ready to go for the start of the year, and at the age of 31, he has a bounce-back season? It's possible. Do they view it as, hey, this is a lost cause. We need to go our separate ways. There's nothing that can fix this relationship. And if so, are they willing to eat more money than they have been on many of these deals in the past? Because that is traditionally not something that Doug Armstrong likes to do. He does not like having that dead money on his books.
I have to imagine Steen is going to have the same mindset as Doug Armstrong on that front, just because he's worked with him. And maybe he doesn't. Maybe he surprises all of us. But when you work with Doug Armstrong and, you know, if he hammers that into where it's like, we just don't do this, I really think that's going to remain steadfast. I also look at how Jim Montgomery views Pavel Buchnevich, because Steen is going to be talking with Monty in terms of players that fit, players that don't fit this offseason. They have not scratched Pavel Buchnevich. Now, if you want to call the maintenance day a scratch or not scratch, whatever you want, but Jim Montgomery said that he wasn't healthy and we wanted to give him a day.
Wink.
Fine. But when they scratched Kyrou, it wasn't a maintenance day. It was, yeah, he needs a reset. When he just scratched Pius Suter, Joe just told us he needs a reset. When they said Pavel Buchnevich was out of the lineup, maintenance day, and he went right back in, and he has not missed games this season. Jim Montgomery obviously values Pavel Buchnevich. Now, how does the general manager value him? What's out there for him? That's another question. But I think unless you get blown away by an offer and don't need any salary, I think Pavel Buchnevich is on this roster. It's just, what role is he going to have? He's not a top-line winger anymore. He is not the Robin to Robert Thomas.
No.
That is now Snuggerud and Holloway. So now you have to come to terms with your secondary options. Can you be a second-line center, a winger for us? Can you be a third-line center for us next year? But that's why the fourth line isn't as outlandish as I think people think it is, because if Jim Montgomery says, hey, we value this guy, but we value him in this role, you're playing that role, unless you want to be traded away, which I don't know if Pavel Buchnevich is going to want that.
Harrison's brother Master with the praise. Remember when Alex said he'd like to see the $8 million Pavel Buchnevich on the fourth line for good? And then, so you're suggesting paying Pavel Buchnevich $20 million to go away. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
So you don't want him on the fourth line. You don't want him to play top six, but you don't want to pay him to go away.
Exactly. This is the thing. It's a sunk cost. You've already guaranteed him $8 million for the next 5 years. There's no way around it. That is done, right? Like, that contract has been promised to Pavel Buchnevich. Now it is about, what is the best way for us to utilize, I hate referring to players this way, but to utilize this asset. What's the plan here? Because the plan cannot be and will not be playing him on the top line. My guess is it's not to be on the fourth line every night. So that means you're looking at your middle six, or for him to be elsewhere. Well, if you're looking at him in the middle six, I think a lot of people are unhappy. If you're looking at him going elsewhere, I think you're probably going to have to pay down some of this salary, at a minimum, some of it, maybe half of it, for somebody else to take that on, because they've seen the same stuff that we've seen this year, which is that Pavel Buchnevich isn't as good as he once was. And he's 30 years old, and you're trying to remove 5 years of his deal from your books. You can't just do that. Well, in the past, they've done this by sending out a draft pick. They sent the second-round pick with Kevin Hayes to get his money off of the books. That was for a year of a center, and that was for a few $1 million. A, you don't have your second-round pick because of Kevin Hayes, and B, this is 5 years at $8 million. So what's your plan? It's easy to say this is a problem. It's much harder to determine what's the solution. And I right now do not know the answer to that question. But paying $4 million a year, yeah, should be on the table if you decide we are better off by not having Buch as a part of this thing. I don't know if that's what they're going to decide or should decide. But that's what it would probably require if they want to move him out of here.
Well, and Buch decides that too.
Yeah, because he's got the no-trade clause.
Buch decides that. I mean, you could come up with a team, like, let's be honest, the teams that would be trading for Pavel Buchnevich, even if it's at a discounted rate of $4 million, are probably your bottom dwellers. It's not going to be the contending ones because they're going to have cap space to work with on their players or probably go for the top echelon players. They don't want to go get a $4 million player for the next 5 years if he's not going to be a top 9 guy. And I don't think Pavel Buchnevich is going to be willing to go to any of those squads. So, like, that's the other factor into all of this. Kyrou is a much different one to me because I think a lot of people would say, well, he's still a top-esh player. They just need to get him out of St. Louis. Buch, I think it's come down to two things. One, you buy it out and move on, which I don't believe they are going to do, nor have an appetite to do. Or you set it and forget it as, look, you're going to be a role player for us, and you're going to fall in line with wherever we feel is acceptable for you on our roster once it's set.
I agree with that. I don't know why you looked at me. I thought we were going to break.
I assumed there was something more there.
No, I thought we were going to break. That's what I thought.
He likes to make sure everyone isn't listening.
I mean, I'm with you. Would it change if they entered into a rebuild? And what I mean by that is on the buyout front. If they do decide to
There's
trade
no reason to buy him out if you're
Robert Thomas,
rebuilding.
you just move on from the sunk asset at that point.
At that point, though, why am I paying
I mean,
him
that's
to
what
go away?
Minnesota did with their guys. That's what Minnesota
that's why
did
I
with
thought
Suter
of
and
it.
Parise. They bought it out, and they said, we're just going to be bad.
Yeah, I just don't see any reason to buy him out at that point.
And it worked out fine for Minnesota. Now they ended up
It worked out fine for Minnesota. They got Kaprizov. Let's be honest. You find Kaprizov, you'll be fine no matter what.
Yeah, but that was the only thought process that I had because I can't see a scenario where they buy him out. I don't think you can attach enough assets to get him off the books. Like, I just think you got to go into next year planning on you're stuck with Pavel Buchnevich's contract.
I just have to, just going off of the very few conversations I've had with Alexander Steen over the last couple of years and like just thinking about him working with Doug Armstrong. Yeah, he probably has his own values and what he deems acceptable in terms of a general manager. Like, he's not going to be a carbon copy of Doug Armstrong like people think.
So we could hand out no move clauses now?
But, well, be sure if they're acceptable. I think all of them are going to be acceptable moving forward. But I also go to what Tom Stillman told us when we had him on the podcast. Steen is a thinker. Like, he takes a few days to figure things out. This isn't just going to be a matter of, boom, let's just make this decision.
He's going to need a lot of days to figure this one out.
Let me give my pitch on why I think it might make sense this offseason to pay half of his salary to get him off of your books, okay? Because this is as much to me, it's the Vladimir Tarasenko conversation in some ways, where it's about the playing time. Remember when we were talking about that, it was about what's the value here? Are you trying to move him off of the books to open up the space? Are you trying to increase the asset that you're getting in return? What's the plan here? So this offseason, I think you've got Holloway, Thomas, and Snuggie locked in as your top line. I think on the second line, the hope next year is that Dvorsky will be your center and Carbonneau will be one of the wingers. On the third line, I think you're looking at it today as it's Suter, Jake Neighbors, and Otto Stenberg. Do you guys disagree with anything that I've said thus far?
No.
No, I don't know about Suter at that center position for the third line. Like, that's where I wonder if they'd look at Buch and say you're a third line center.
Okay. But let's go with that for now. That's 8 of your top 9. The last spot that I have there would be potentially Pavel Buchnevich. Or, in this scenario, could be a winger that you're upgrading for. That could be the spot where you go make the big trade and you're trading Jordan Kyrou plus draft plus prospect, something like that, to go out there and acquire a big-time player. If you do that, you do not have a spot in your top 9 for Pavel Buchnevich to play in.
Yep.
And so that roster spot is more valuable than anything else because I want Stenberg playing every day next year. I want Jake Neighbors in the lineup every day. We've talked a lot about Carbonneau and the value that he could have by playing every day for the St. Louis Blues. You do all of that, there's no spot here for Pavel Buchnevich. It doesn't make sense for him to be a part of the roster unless, Alex, as you said, he's your third line center. I think Suter's a better player in that role than what Pavel Buchnevich is, and he's $4 million. He does not have no trade protection. If something goes awry next year, he could be a trade asset for you far more so than Pavel Buchnevich is at next year's deadline. You're not under cap constraints right now, and I don't think the $4 million is going to kill you. So that's why, to me, I do think there is a very clear scenario in which it would actually make sense to eat the money, take your medicine, and this is kind of similar to what the Minnesota Wild did, and go ahead and move on from the player. But it would require a very specific set of circumstances. And you'd have to go out there and make that upgrade in your top 9. Otherwise, you can just have him as a part of your roster and he can fill in wherever it makes sense for you.
And the upgrade could be through the draft if you get lucky enough to pick one of the top 2 spots. I think the other factor into this is he willing to go? And I think there's probably a strong chance that he isn't willing to go to where you're able to pay to send him, which is why I brought up him on the 4th line. I could absolutely seeing it a scenario to where he's a 4th liner, and when injuries pop up, here's your chance, Pavel Buchnevich. As it goes on, maybe you're more likely to get somebody that would trade for him, but he gets older at that point. So you're in a really stuck spot. I think the more likely scenario is he is a part of this roster. It's just in a role that's not a top 6 player.
Junk drawer next. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. T-Bone, you started a new show last night?
I did. Yeah. I started The Pit. I'm a year late, but I started The Pit last night.
A year late's not that far. I'm typically like 10 years late on shows.
Have you started The Pit at all?
No. I'm just trying to get through the 2 seasons of shows that I've been on for the last 3 years. I just finished Paradise a couple of days ago, and I'm like 2 episodes away from finishing Night Agent.
It's an old school TV show, like a legit old school style TV show where, hey, it comes out weekly. There's like 15 to 20 episodes in each individual season. It's like what we used to watch, Alex, growing up. So I'm very curious to see what T-Bone thinks of this. And the reason I bring it up is because it's a throwback. The way that going to the Masters is a throwback. Do you know you can't have your phone on you whenever you go to the Masters?
Really?
Yep. Can't have your phone. People actually leave the Masters and say they enjoyed it more because they didn't have their phone on them.
Yep.
It is one of the things that it makes it a very different experience. Here's my
T-Bone's
question
watching now to see if anybody's on their phone.
Yeah, I think this feels wrong.
No, he's right.
No,
It's
you're
a
not
rule.
allowed to have your phone when you're at the course.
Actually,
it's a
going
rule
to
in a couple of
golf
other
event
tours as
sounds
well.
miserable. I can't imagine going to a golf event without my
there's
phone.
so much going
better
on.
because
Yeah.
you actually watch the event.
Yeah.
People aren't just sitting on their phones the whole time or taking terrible pictures from far away, the likes of which you'll never look at again. So instead, you're actually locked in on the experience of being at the event. And the reason I mentioned this, Alex, do you think that other sporting events could do that?
Yeah, and I think concerts should do it too. I think concerts should enact a rule that you can't bring your phone in there. I
do love the people that record
I
the
think
concert.
it's so
I'm like,
lame,
you're
and
not going to watch that later.
I could say this.
You can watch it on YouTube, guys. I
Yeah.
promise.
My
I'm gonna
wife
post
does
something.
this. She'll videotape like songs, and I'm like, what are you going to do with that? I don't understand the people that live through their phones on events like that. Like even at my daughter's dance recital last year, people were doing that. And like to an extent, I get that
Okay,
one.
that I get.
But they offer you the video and they send you the video. So I just like,
Do you have to pay for it?
No.
Okay, well,
No,
then,
they just send it to you. I just like, I'm the type of,
just do that.
I'm the
They
type,
make you pay for it. I get it.
like, I'm probably the worst husband possible because I don't like to take pictures and videotape stuff like that because I kind of just like to take it all in. So, yeah, sporting events, I think that absolutely should be the case. Now, some of them are tough because, like, baseball would be difficult to say, like, you can't have your phone with the in between the innings and whatnot. But
How come? Why couldn't you?
I mean, unless you're going with people
being
that
totally
can
I
have
think it's as boring
conversation.
as slow as watching a
Yeah.
golf event. I mean, you wait for them
At
to
least
walk up
golf,
to the
though.
hole.
At
It's
least
probably
There's
about the
constant
same.
golfers coming up to each hole.
And I can walk around to other holes.
Yeah, you can follow a guy, but in that point, you're walking with them, so you're literally like doing stuff.
And actually following a golfer, you've got a lot more little downtime because like you're always moving. When he moves,
Correct.
you're moving. Baseball, I'm sitting in a seat, and unless I'm with a lot of people that I want to talk to, I got all of the downtime in between innings, and if an inning's
what if
going
they did
slow,
this at like a Blues game?
I think it would be perfect. No,
I think it'd be great.
It'd be tough
20
during the
minute
intermissions.
intermission,
But if you're with people that you're supposed to
If
be
you
there
can't
talking
do
with,
the 20 minutes of intermission without your phone, we've got bigger problems in this country,
I
man.
mean, how long
I'm being
is
totally. I think it would be amazing if sporting events were a phone-free zone.
Why don't you not bring your phone? You don't have to bring it.
I almost never check my phone while I'm at a sporting event,
couldn't tell you
unless I'm covering it.
I couldn't tell you the last time I was at a sporting event, like as a fan, but when I have been, it's rare that I'm on my phone. I'm also chasing 3 children around and whatnot. But
Yeah,
like if
I'll take pictures with Luca, but that's about it.
if I'm with like 4 buddies and we're going to a game, if I've got guys that I want to talk to, I'm not going to be on my phone. So it's like I don't need it. But if I'm like there with one other person that's just kind of like a mutual thing, yeah, I probably need my phone to keep myself distracted. I was just having this conversation with Katie the other day. It's like I really enjoy my drive homes every night because it's quiet. It's like you kind of in your own head. I'm listening to a podcast and it's just like it's chill.
It's
rather
part
than,
of what I love about going on runs.
Yeah.
Is that it's like one of my rare times where I am completely disconnected. It does not matter what happens in the sports world. Like for that 45 minutes to an hour, whatever it is on any given day, I am able to just kind of go do my thing. And it is something that I think a lot of people, myself included, we're really bad at this. We're really bad at disconnecting and just allowing ourselves to enjoy the moment, whatever that may be that you're doing at the time.
Someone said, bad news, your ticket's on your cell phone.
True, yeah.
You got to put it in a bin before you walk in, so then you got to get it afterwards.
That's the hard part, is figuring out how you would make this logistically work.
Okay,
I don't know what they do.
You can install some type of like equipment that like kills the phone data once you walk in, you know?
Yeah, that's expensive though. I wonder if there's some kind of like a cubby system that you could do. I don't know. I don't know how
lockers
it would work.
like at Six Flags where you put them in and you lock it up and you go back and get it. I mean, I'm with you, man. Like, there's way too much in this world now where people need to be on their phone 24/7. I try not to do it. I'm guilty of it, so I can't act as if I'm perfect, but I feel like it's one of those things that I'm out and I see people that are either on it all the time or like living life through it, and it's like, what are you doing in this sense?
BK's Ass Sweat says on the text line,
Can we change that name?
y'all don't realize how often you use your phone. No, I do, and it sucks.
Mine reminds me every night of how much usage I used.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, I'm a POS.
It's honestly like, I love this job. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's all I've ever wanted to do. It's my least favorite part of the job, is that I have an anxiety of missing things. And so I always feel as though I need to be checking my phone. It's something that I've really tried to get better at, but I'm still not great at it, frankly, is I don't need to see whatever pops up next every 5 minutes. I'll catch up by the end of the night, but I feel the need to be there. Otherwise, I feel as though I'm behind. And so, yes, I very much realize how often I use my phone. I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
In so many different ways, I think doing this job 30 years ago would have been far more enjoyable because you didn't have that. It was more of a, like, you get your updates and then you go talk. But also, we do this job in a way where, like, it's part of the appeal is that you get those constant updates. So it's a give and take.
Yeah, I would not have enjoyed doing the job like 30 years ago, because TV would have been limited in what you're doing. You wouldn't have had constant updates, which I get it. It can be stressful at times, but it is nice to know what's going on. And then you'd have to be at the ballpark for almost every game.
Yeah, but you also have better communication skills, in my opinion, to where you have to have conversations with people to get information rather than get information on social media.
I can feel the generational divide with this conversation. T-Bone grew up with this always being on him. When I grew up, this is not what a phone looked like.
No, mine was a flip phone.
It was a flip phone. You did not have a screen the way that it is right now that you type on. You did not have access necessarily to internet on your phone.
Do you remember the text form?
T9.
Yeah, where you had to like type a letter, like you hit a number and it gave you 3 options. Oh yeah, I could master the art of texting on my phone in my pocket.
Barely. It was just such a different experience. Like when we were in college, Alex, it's kind of the very beginning of social media. Yeah. You could still get away with doing stupid stuff without everything being recorded. I can't imagine being in college today.
Oh no,
it has to be miserable.
Wasn't fun.
Nobody is themselves at parties anymore. Because
I've heard about some good parties in college from my cousins who are in college.
Yeah, but
I don't think there's concern about it.
You're in Olney, and
no, I wasn't talking about Olney.
Illegal there.
I was talking about Manhattan, Kansas. Okay.
Frankly, there should be concern about it because everything can be recorded at any given time, and so if you're doing something stupid, that could come back at any time.
And
in your
now
life.
you got
you
AI
never know.
To where you don't even have to be being recorded. They could do something when you're at a party. So I'm 100% with you. It's dude, like there's somebody I follow on social media that does like life is like a 90s mom, and like she has her kids like live a 90s world. It's like that was such a enjoyable time because there wasn't that like pressure to always be connected.
Yeah,
it was where you could be connected with the people that you were around, and that was it. Like I don't think I could survive today like I used to where like when you were dating, you had to call your girlfriend's house to like talk to them, and their dad was gonna pick up, and you had to have an awkward conversation.
Hey, is Lisa there?
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
Oh, I guess a friend from school.
Or to be able to hang out with a buddy who lived down the street, you would actually have to go up to their door, knock on it, and say, "Hey, is Willie home?
Yep.
I want to see if he wanted to come down.
Big
We're
Willie.
shooting some hoops down the street."
Yep.
You know, like that. It's just so different.
Yep. Grow up, man.
Cheer you old guys. Back in my
The
day,
90s was a great era, and I wish I could go back.
Moral of the story, I do wonder if we will see at some point a sports franchise decide, you know what, we're limiting phone use because of the success that we've seen with it at the Masters.
I doubt it. I doubt it because I think all these sports teams want to be connected and want you to be donating and texting and all of that stuff.
I know. If they do, though,
I
think it'd be popular.
What? We should start our own community like
How
in
am I gonna
Paradise
play?
Underground to where phones are illegal.
Works out really well
How am
for
I
them.
going to play ballpark bingo when I go to the Cardinals game without my phone?
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll play a game of Believe It or Not. But next, what do you make of Michael McGreevy's stuff right now? At least according to one metric, it's literally the worst in Major League Baseball. We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN. Do you think Dianna Russini is going to be able to do this job again?
Dude.
I thought we made a rule yesterday we weren't going to talk about this,
She
Brandon.
tweeted this morning, the NFL informed its teams about when they could expect to see replacement officials visiting facilities if a deal is not reached by next month.
What were the
when
comments?
the current CBA with NFL Referee Association expires, and then just posted the link. You'd think that's fairly innocuous. The first response is a meme where somebody has an elephant and it just says, "Address me."
The one I pulled up had refs lining up to be Rossini's next inside source. Man, it is brutal out there.
Somebody else posted a meme of Shrek going like, said, "Everyone, when we hear per multiple sources."
Vince Carter, I've got one more in me. That was the meme that they posted.
A lot of people just tweeting AI images of her.
Somebody took the one from the Coldplay concert with the guy.
I know. On a pure professional side of things, Alex,
It's a rough time for her.
can you do this job? You need social media to do the job that she does, as much as we were just talking in the last segment about how much we hate it.
I think you could do the social media side of it. Can you do this job with all of the others in the NFL that don't trust you as much anymore? Because that's the whole thing of being an insider, right? You have trusted sources around the game.
I don't know that this changes that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's. I actually think it's more of the can you handle what's going to be the storm on social media?
I don't think her standing within the league is probably going to change that much. And I don't say this to cast judgment on anybody. Listen, like, everybody lives their own personal life, whatever. I don't want to talk about the actual, like, what happened here, what didn't. I don't know. It's weird. It's, if you don't know what we're talking about, Dianna Russini, there were pictures posted of her and Mike Vrabel at a hotel in Sedona, Arizona, and this was right around the time of the owners' meetings. So both of them would have been down there for the owners' meetings, which took place in like the Phoenix area, and they were photographed in Arizona in a hot tub together, on a rooftop together, like just, you know, stuff that you wouldn't expect to see a reporter in a bikini with Mike Vrabel at a hotel, right? Like that, it's just very... doesn't come off well, certainly. So I don't think that a lot of people in the NFL are going to be like, they'll change their relationship with her for that. I do think her relationship with fans changes. Because now...
why couldn't you do your job anymore? Your job's not really tied into the fans. Your
job is literally for the fans.
But people aren't going to stop clicking on your article because of a photo that was you and Vrabel. If you've got information,
there is very much a question, if you are an NFL fan, of where is this information coming from, and am I being fed something based upon your personal relationship with somebody, and how would that influence what I am reading from your reports?
But if her information isn't all about the Patriots, why would that have anything to do with it?
Maybe some of it is influenced by the Patriots. Or could this be...
I don't think many fans think that way.
I don't either. I think it would have more of a hindrance on her career from the NFL side of it, with the sources of not trusting, because she's so tied in with Vrabel and the Patriots, that they'd be concerned about that. If you're dealing with the ish storm of social media and fan reaction, I mean, I wouldn't be able to handle that, because that would be too much on me and my family. But I mean, for her, if you can handle it, I don't think that's going to impact you. They're still going to read your writing.
I don't know. I'm genuinely, I don't know what this is going to look like. I think that the backlash is, I don't know if backlash is the right thing. The scrutiny that's taking place right now, it's real, man. I also would not deal well with this.
I wouldn't.
And like, social media is a big part of the job. Everything she posts, that's what's going to be underneath it now. Like, eventually she's probably going to have to turn off the comments from the stuff that she's posting.
To be honest, I'm surprised she didn't do that here.
On social media. This is the first time that she's posted anything of her own in a few days. Like, the last time that she posted anything was April 7th, really early in the morning. Everything she's posting is going to have just a bunch of this stuff. Somebody said, who are you all talking about? Dianna Russini, reporter for The Athletic. Again, we just went over the story, but she was photographed with Mike Vrabel at a hotel down in Sedona, Arizona, where they were together. I am really interested to see where this story goes from here. And I know in politics there was a story of, and I'm just like making the connection of something that happened there. The woman, Newsy, who was doing work for a publication in like the New York area, and she ended up having a relationship with RFK Jr. She was let go because of that relationship, because you couldn't look at her reporting and say, hey, this is on the level, right? It's probably influenced in some way by somebody that's in the administration. And I do wonder, and like, sports are different than politics, obviously, but I wonder if something similar is going to happen here.
Yeah, I don't know. The part about this that's interesting too is it's not even her piece. She didn't even write this. Like, she's sharing a link from a colleague from The Athletic.
I'm guessing it was a trial balloon to see, like, hey, can I post on social?
Because I didn't even notice that till I'm not going to lie, I was scrolling through some of the other comments.
The comments are phenomenal.
I saw that it's not even her piece.
Listen, the whole thing, like, this is the professional side of things, and then there is the, like...
oh, yeah.
They're both married, and this was, like, photographed here, and you can make your own judgments on what was going on because nobody seems to know. And also in the middle is, dude, the stuff that's being posted on social media is really freaking funny over the last 24 hours. And some of the comments that she has apparently made about her husband,
I told you that
on
today.
Different shows over the course of the last, like, multiple years.
Another reason why social media
it's
sucks.
Crazy.
You say you do one thing, people will go back for the next 25 years and find every little thing that you have said. But again, like you put yourself into that position if you're Dianna Russini, and so now you're going to have to deal with that stuff. It comes down to how tough are you, which I know sounds like a horrible thing to say, but how mentally tough are you to be able to handle this and do your job? Because otherwise, it gets to the point where you got to turn the comments off or you have to find different ways to get your stuff out. I don't think it impacts it because you're still putting your articles out there and people are still going to listen to it because you're still viewed as an NFL insider. But dealing with those types of comments, I mean, she's got 3,000 comments on that one article. You're going to be dealing with that for a long time until the next story comes around, and then everyone will forget about this one probably.
I don't know, man.
We know how this works.
I'm trying to decide, does it make it better or worse that neither of them have commented about it?
They did.
Oh,
did they? Both put out a public comment on it. Now, it was just one. It was a publicly released comment, I believe, to the New York Post because they were the ones that had this story. The other part of this is like, we don't have to go too far into this. By the way, Michael McGreevy's stuff has not been good.
I was going to say, remember when we were like yesterday on NFL Quick Hitters? We're only going to talk about...
That's my favorite part, because we're not touching it.
It has now become such a big story that I think it's okay.
It was there yesterday this big.
I don't know, man. The videos have just been pouring out today.
I think it's taken on a new life of its own. Who took these pictures?
It's got to be.
I thought this is at some like...
I thought somebody said it was somebody at the hotel or whatever.
I don't think we know.
I thought that had come out, that it was somebody at the hotel that took a picture of it.
I've not seen anything reported
so maybe
on
not.
that.
Okay.
But like, was this a private eye that was hired to follow them?
Oh, God, that would suck.
Was this an employee of the hotel? Was it somebody that was just, they happened to be at the hotel? Because it appears, based upon the pictures, this is over multiple hours probably, that they were being photographed. So somebody was like following them around to capture all of these photos, because they're like on a roof in one, and then they're on a
they're wearing different outfits.
Pool. Yeah, like this is not just I was around there for 10 minutes, I happened to see them, boom boom, snap a couple of pictures, you're ready to go. It's that also brings up another side of the story as well, which is like, is this a thing? Has it been going? Yeah, and then that's the personal side of it, which I have opinions I'll keep to myself. But it's not a fun spot to be in for either of them right now. No. And again, for anybody, somebody said, why is this even a story? Both of them are married.
Yeah, and she has
that's a big
kids.
part of
I don't know if he does.
I think both have kids. And she is a reporter on the NFL. One of her biggest scoops from the offseason has been everything she's doing on the A.J. Brown story.
Now,
he is reportedly going to be likely to be a New England Patriot at some point by the end of the summer. So yeah. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Believe it or not is next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's off of Chippewa, open for its 97th season daily. That St. Louis tradition is back and has been around since 1929. 4 generations of families have been running the Ted Drew's business, built on quality service and a love for St. Louis. It's remained a family-owned and operated business founded on the motto, our business is service, and committed to providing exceptional service and a warm, welcoming atmosphere. And you see it all the time. People out there in the parking lot, spending time together, enjoying Ted Drew's. I always love driving by when it's warm outside like today, because you see the lines of people that are just waiting to get in, and those lines, you see it, and it's like, oh gosh, we're going to be here forever. Oh boy, it goes quick and efficient. And of course, you get that delicious frozen custard. Whatever flavor you want, whatever mix and match you want, pro tip, buy it in bulk, take it home and stuff it in the freezer and have Ted Drew's whenever you would like it. Plus, while you're there, walk across the parking lot and check out the Ted Drew's gift shop and historical museum, where you could see tons of Ted Drew's St. Louis Route 66 memorabilia, and you can buy Ted Drew's apparel, Ted Drew's gift cards. So get on out there today, get out there this weekend, and enjoy the tradition. Real custard, real tradition. Ted Drew's, it's St. Louis.
All right, good luck, Alex. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
free, flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
Thank you for cranking that audio when I was singing.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are believing it or not here on 101 ESPN. Believe it or not, Tim Stützle has been a disappointment in his NHL career.
Man, I would have originally said not believe it, but you have swayed me. And it's so funny we're talking about this. Something just popped up. This goes to show you AI is always listening. Somebody tweeted out JFresh hockey stats cards. It said most overrated player versus most underrated player. Nico Hischier labeled a first liner, 95% on the offense, 51% on the defense. Tim Stützle, 77% offense, 9% defense. I'm going to believe it. Tim Stützle, not as good as people make it out to be. The reason I find it so crazy is like the narrative. I think people in the NHL believe that guy is a superstar.
He's a good player. I think Jordan Kyrou is a good player. And they're basically the same player.
I think Robert Thomas is better than Stützle, in terms of how they play.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah. Thomas is a very good defensive centerman and posts point per game every year. Now, Stützle is a better goal scorer, but overall, if you were telling me I get one of these over the other, I would rather have Robert Thomas. Age is also a factor here. Stützle is younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the reason I'm bringing this up is because Alex was going through off of the air some of the comparisons for NHL prospects, and he brought up Ivar Stenberg as a comparison point for Tim Stützle. And I said, and Alex reacted viscerally. I said, I think that would be a little disappointing.
It's just like,
for the number 2 overall selection. And Alex said, are you being serious? And I was like, yeah. I mean, Stützle is basically Jordan Kyrou. And I think that if you get a number 2 overall selection and he becomes Jordan Kyrou, I think most Blues fans would be disappointed by that. Yeah. Fair or otherwise, but I think that would be the reaction to it.
Listen to that draft then, the year that Stützle was taking 3rd overall. Lafreniere, Quentin Byfield, Tim Stützle, Lucas Raymond, Jake Sanderson, Jamie Drysdale, Alex Holtz, Jack Quinn, Marco Rossi, Cole Perfetti. Hopefully it's not that draft this year. You're going to have to skip me because that was my believe it or not.
T-Bone?
Guys, believe it or not, Jordan Walker will lead the Cardinals in home runs this season.
Ooh, that's a fun one. I'll say believe it. He's already got 5. He's just off to such a good head start.
It's true.
Yeah. I'm gonna say not believe it. I think he falls off, and I think Ivan Herrera heats up.
I like that.
And I think he'll probably finish top 3. Maybe 2, depending on what Burleson does, but I'd say not believe it.
Yeah, see, I might believe it, and I think it's because even if he doesn't get to 30, he could still lead the team in home runs. It's like I think Burley, Herrera, 2nd, 3rd, in that order somewhat. I think you're talking about them being, 20 to 25? I mean, look at Walker's last couple of home runs. The one that he hit to left center yesterday, and then the one in Game 2 that he hit the opposite way to right field. That ball came off the bat, and I went, not a home run, probably a flyout. And it just goes, right? That's how easy his power is. So, yeah, I think if he even, because we said we hit the button on him becoming Torkelson this year from last year, I think that's in his range of outcomes. He would lead the Cardinals in home runs, so believe it.
I have one now, if I could throw one out there. Believe it or not, both the Justin Falk and Braden Shen trades will go down as a top 5 trade for Doug Armstrong at the end of his career.
Man, I'd have to go through the trades, but Braden Shen would be higher.
O'Reilly would be higher.
O'Reilly would be higher.
Brown deal would be higher.
Obviously. I think they signed him.
You know what? I know it's not going to be remembered this way. The Booch deal was better. The contract afterwards, no, but the Booch trade originally was better.
Yeah. I think the Jay Bomeister trade.
So no. I'll say not believe it.
Not believe it.
What if I said top 10? Would you put it there?
I don't know, man. We're going to continue along there.
No, it's fine. You don't have to. Here's the only reason I'm asking that. What if all of those picks on top of the prospects, which we had Scott Wheeler tell us that kid that they got from the Islanders is actually a pretty damn good prospect. What if all of those picks turn into them making a trade for Brady Tkachuk or trading up to get a top 3 pick?
Yeah, I mean, they have the potential to give you the ammo to make a move like that.
Like long term, does it become a seriously significant move because you had a Detroit pick that wins in the lottery that moves into a top 10 one?
All right, let's get to a couple of these from the text line, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. Guys, believe it or not, there will be at least 2 Cardinals pitchers with 10 or more wins this season.
Not believe it. Not believe it.
I'm not sure there's going to be one with 10 wins.
I don't know.
From Dirk Diggler's unit, believe it or not, Franklin. Tanner Franklin?
I'm assuming
Tanner
it's
Scott.
Franklin.
Tanner Scott, Ryan Franklin, Tanner
I know,
Franklin.
that's what I was doing. Tanner didn't understand
You do
it.
Ryan Franklin, I do Tanner Scott. We'll just always Tanner
Tanner
Franklin.
Franklin ends up with a better major league career than Liam Doyle. I'm not there. I think people are freaking out over Liam Doyle's stats from last night.
One freaking start. Let's calm down.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Franklin at a lower level? Isn't he in high A?
He's a high A, yeah.
Yeah, so he's seeing less polished hitters than what Doyle saw last night in his debut. I wouldn't say not believe it. I actually like Tanner Franklin. BK knows this. I was high on that pick when they took him, and I even asked Joey Vitale, the manager of the Giants, who at the time was the Tennessee college baseball manager. I asked him when he was on the show after that draft what he thought of Franklin, and he told us, like, hey, this guy is really good. They may have gotten a steal.
Now, that being said, from the 636, believe it or not, Liam Doyle will make at least 5 starts at the major league level this year. I do not think that he's going to make it to the big league level, and that doesn't mean that he's a failure. It's okay. It could take some time here, and that's perfectly normal.
Yeah, I'm not believing this. I watched a little bit of his start last night. I'm not going to act as if I watched the entire start. I caught the back half of it. You can tell his breaking stuff is not polished yet, and that's why originally I thought going into the year, hey, this guy might just blitz through your system. Well, if he doesn't have a breaking ball, he's not going to blitz through your system. So I agree. I don't think we're going to see him this year.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, there were a couple of moves across the NHL that I wonder, does this make it more or less likely for the Blues to make a deal with this team in the offseason? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center Update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Blues back in action tonight as they take on the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Carber and Joey Vitale. And yesterday, the Cardinals took down the Nationals 6-1 as they take 2 of 3 in the nation's capital. They return home tomorrow night when they start a 3-game set with the Boston Red Sox. 7:15 will be first pitch. Dustin May will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center Update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So there were a couple of moves over the last 2 days in the NHL that I wanted to get Alex's thoughts on. So the New Jersey Devils and their GM have decided to part ways. And then yesterday it was announced that Seattle, the Kraken, are going in a different direction from their GM, Ron Francis Cat.
That Ron Francis Cat.
Get out of here.
Hall of Famer, Ron Francis Cat.
Yeah, get out of here. We're done. Alex, these are two teams that have been at least rumored to be possible destinations for some of the Blues players that have been on the market in recent years. Do you think them starting over in the front office for the Devils or the Kraken, does that make it more or less likely for the Blues to be able to find a deal with them this offseason?
I think it makes it more likely. And I just think of, unfortunately, because we keep bringing his name up, Jordan Kyrou, because his name was connected to both of these teams over the last year. Seattle obviously was very hot and heavy there with the potential of Shane Wright. The Devils were looking at that because a lot of people made the comparison of could they trade for Simone Nemec. You know, I was listening to Wyshynski on Merrick's podcast a couple of days ago, and he's a big New Jersey Devils fan. And prior to it was after the firing of Tom Fitzgerald, he said this team needs to shake up their core. And he talked about, do they move Nico Hischier? Do they trade Timo Meier, who they acquired a couple of years ago? But he said that team needs to shake up their core. Seattle is going to miss the playoffs again, and it is going to be one playoff since their entry into the league with the expansion draft. That's not good enough from their owner's perspective. So typically when they fire general managers, it's because they're not happy with how they ran that team in terms of the roster players and lack of aggressiveness maybe in terms of trades or free agent signings. So, yeah, I think both of those teams are going to be looking for a seismic switch this upcoming offseason to change the look of their team. So I absolutely think you have to bring into the Jordan Kyrou conversation because it's a new GM, and now they're maybe going to be a little bit more interested in a player like this rather than the previous regime.
Do you think Hischier would make sense for the Blues?
Yes, absolutely. That's your number 2 center. And frankly, you could say he's your number 1, but I think Robert Thomas is better. Absolutely. Now, I don't know what his cost is going to be. He's got one more year.
Those guys don't get traded. He's 27 years old.
No, I meant like his signing. Like,
oh, sure.
Because he's got 1 year and then he's UFA.
Cost from a trade perspective, because he only has a modified no-trade clause, is going to be significant. He's only got a 10-team no-trade list. And then the cost from a value perspective is also going to be significant because he'll be 28 years old, hitting the unrestricted free agent market as a center who also wins faceoffs.
Yeah. So like
and scores 25 to 30 goals every year.
And is a very good defensive centerman. So like I think that is going to be very pricey in both aspects, but if you can find a way to make it work, because to me, if you had a 3 down the middle of Thomas, Hischier, and Dvorsky,
what if you had to give up Dvorsky in that deal?
That one would be tough, and it's only because I think you're as Doug Armstrong would say, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're making yourself really good, but you have no depth, and you have nothing in your. Yeah, I guess.
He's a fine third-line center. And Hischier is what you want Dvorsky to become.
Yeah.
He's just already a ready-made player. Now, it's a lot more expensive.
Well, and can Dvorsky get to that level, I guess, is the other question you're going to ask, which I don't think he gets to that point total.
Not.
But is he a second-line center? I mean, look, it'd be hard to say no to it. I'd have to seriously sit down and consider it.
And I think the Blues would have to add a significant amount more in there. I don't think it would just be Dvorsky for Hischier. No. I think you're talking like Dvorsky plus.
It would be cheaper to trade for Brady Tkachuk than Nico Hischier.
You think?
Yeah. In my opinion, it would be cheaper to trade for Tkachuk than Nico Hischier because that's a centerman. Those guys don't come around very often. He's got a modified no trade, so they don't really have to, be bent over in terms of you tell us where you're going to go, we'll tell you where you're going to go. But yeah, I mean, I'd listen to it. I think the one that's more likely is Seattle.
I was about to say, what do they have that
Shane Wright or Matty Beniers? I would trade for one of those guys. If we're talking Jordan Kyrou, I would trade for one of those two guys. And there's another guy that I would consider too this offseason. Sounds like a Ferrario 5 that's building up, T-Bone, so maybe we'll get to that.
You trade for Shane Wright?
If it's Kyrou, yeah. And I think it's only because of what we've seen with Kyrou, and I think this is Kyrou. And Shane Wright, I also feel like is another one of those guys that isn't hitting his potential because of where he's at. Like, I think that guy's a second-line center.
Okay.
I'd rather have Matty Beniers. Matty Beniers, to me, is a clear-cut number 2 center. There's another guy that I would keep an eye on in Columbus. His name's Kent Johnson, who was a former 5th overall pick or top 5 pick, centerman. Columbus doesn't want to use him an awful lot, using him on the 4th line. That'd be another guy. But there's going to be a lot of names out there that teams are looking for a change of their scenery, and that's where I think the Blues can capitalize, not only because they've got Kyrou. You have a slew of left-handed defensemen in your minor league system, a ton of wingers in your minor league system in your pipeline, and you're going to have 3 first-round picks this year.
I did want to pass this along. Was reading over on Sportsnet last night. They have a piece that they put out, Alex, from a former NHL scout breaking down the top 32 current NHL prospects that have not yet made it to the NHL. And at number 1, I did find it interesting as I was reading this list. It was basically a who's who of names that we had mentioned around the trade deadline in return for Robert Thomas. James Higgins was number 1 on this list, the left-handed center for the Boston Bruins, who just signed his contract with them. There was also Michael Hage at number 3, TJ Inlet at number 4, Caleb Danielier at number 5. Just a bunch of guys that we talked about as potential options for the Blues. You get further down the list, and at number 25 is Justin Carbonneau. They said the following about him. Carbonneau reminds me of a younger David Perron. Not a burner in the open ice, but he possesses incredible puck touch and the ability to make plays in a phone booth. It's rare to see him mishandling a puck in a high-danger scoring area. With that in mind, he projects to be a middle 6 scoring upside winger at the NHL level. He's especially dangerous on the power play. And then at number 28 is the Blues' right shot defenseman, Adam Jiricek, saying the following. Jiricek is an intriguing prospect playing for the OHL. His entire game is on the rise. Early in his development, he battled injuries, but he's 6'2", he's 185 pounds, and he's added strength to his frame, and he displays creative skill offensively. He's deployed in all situations at the junior level and has contributed to 19 goals and nearly 60 points in the regular season. So that's what at least one former NHL scout now working for Sportsnet thinks of the Blues' top prospects. 2 guys in the top 30 in the NHL right now.
And again, I think Jiricek Carbonneau, to me, I think he's got a little bit more upside than David Perron, but you're probably looking at about that to where he's a 25 goal scorer with the hope of he could get to 30 at some point, but it's not going to be consistent there.
If you told me today I could sign the button or to hit the button and he becomes David Perron, I couldn't tell you how quickly I'd hit that.
I'd hit that too. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's played, what is he, 18 years in the NHL, 16 years in the NHL? Like, I would sign that in a heartbeat because that's a consistent player. The Jiricek one, I think, is the one I'm more fascinated by. I'm surprised he's lower than Justin Carbonneau because everything I've heard about Jiricek is that guy's got Alex Pietrangelo stuff to him. Can create offense, plays physical, really good in his own end. He's the one that I'm kind of most fascinated with in terms of what he looks like next year, because if you could have a top 4 of Mayu and Jiricek with Broberg and Lindstein, or if you go get another left-handed defenseman, and you're in a really good spot.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind. Put a bow on this thing here on BK and Ferrario. don't like doing this show. I don't like working with either of you.
I don't like doing the show
We
either.
were just talking about
I don't
science
feel
during the
good.
commercial
I mean,
break.
it's not a scientific ballpark.
I'm excited. The Royals are moving downtown in Kansas City.
Doesn't look very scientific enough.
You guys are just over here criticizing my every move. If you guys missed any of today's show, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, the free 101 ESPN app. It's all presented by
Schaefer Door
that
Company.
101 ESPN app is super easy to use. It's free to download.
Super
It is
easy.
sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. I will be in tomorrow, out on Monday and Tuesday because I'm sick of working with you, both of you.
I'm sick, so maybe I'll be off tomorrow. I took off Monday. Maybe I'll call it a day on Friday and let you guys go. Where are you going again?
Take a guess.
Probably Maine, because he loves Maine.
I do love Maine. I really like
Vermont.
Portland. No, I do like Vermont as well, but no, not
it's
going
Disney.
there.
You're
Yeah,
lucky. I
going to
know.
Disney
We're
World.
going in February, and I can't wait.
Yeah, my wife basically looked at me and said, "Hey, so I'm going to take Luca one more time before we have to pay for him for every day of the ticket. You can come if you want to. You don't have to, but I'm just putting out the offer. But I need to go one more time with him." I
went?
said, "Okay, I guess I will be there."
Stay at home, buddy.
So I will be out in Orlando for the weekend.
That's okay, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Before we get out of here, Alex, Jordan Walker, another good one yesterday. What have we learned from the Cardinals through the first 2 weeks?
That they're better than what we thought. And I think the National League is going to allow them to be in this. I think there's some teams that you look at and you're like, they're not going to be this bad. Like Philadelphia, they're not going to be this bad. But I don't think the Cardinals are going to be the worst team in the NL Central and going to be a 100-loss team anymore. Their offense is going to keep them flirting with 500. And it's just a matter of if you can find a way to get this off-track train that feels like every time they step on the mound is like, what's going to happen? If you could figure out how to just calm things down with the pitching staff, I think this team could actually stay competitive. Not for a playoff spot, but at least be close to above 500.
I learned yesterday that I'm just so glad we don't have to watch Miles Michaelis in a Cardinals uniform this year.
That you
And I'm
That
not
was your
kidding.
takeaway?
I'm 100% not kidding. I don't know
struck
if
out
you
Jordan
guys
Walker on 3 pitches.
His
felt the
stuff was
same
about
way.
as good as McGreevy's.
Yeah, but the
And
effectiveness was not. One of them was far more effective than the other. I just would have been miserable this year watching Michaelis again. I didn't want to see it.
Miserable doing it last year.
He
Michaelis is miserable?
He had some really good seasons here in St. Louis and was a really good pitcher for a while. That went so far south over the last couple of seasons, and at least this year we don't have to watch that. Even if McGreevy does have his struggles this year, some are coming for him. He's not going to get away with this long-term pitching the way that he is. Like, the velocity is going to be a problem if it doesn't improve. At least it's not that. I just didn't want to see it anymore. And this is different. It's new. It's refreshing. I have enjoyed it so far. It's been fun to watch. They don't feel like they're out of baseball games. And seriously, watching Michaelis yesterday, I was reminded that's what it's been over the last few years, is watching a lot of that. Older veteran players aging out of their time here in St. Louis that we've seen fail already, and the Cardinals get to see fail again.
And the Cardinals keep convincing us that it's going to get better.
Exactly.
These guys are better than what they're doing.
We're a playoff team. Just follow along.
It was
His mustache looked good, though.
somebody said,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
because
never
Dustin
lost
May is
its
better. At least it's different. It's not better so far this year. It's been worse, but it's different.
I mean, you're not wrong. Like,
Most of
I
pitching's
just,
not much better.
I just
but
wanted different names. Even if the results are the same, give me different names and know that there's something coming in the pipeline.
I know this might sound stupid. Fail differently. I'm good with you failing. Just fail differently.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Do it in a different, more interesting, younger way. I'm good with that right now. That is enough for me. New edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast is available for you right now at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. So if you want to get your blues fix, you can do that. We will also have a new edition of the Redbird Report later on this afternoon as well. T-Bone and I are going to record that
why
here
T-Bone's
in
wearing a
just
polo.
a little bit. We got a photo shoot coming up here in just a little while.
I
as
did
well.
ours yesterday, and let me tell you,
How'd you look?
weird.
Yeah, well, we'll
Hope
get
you guys
that
are
out
good
of
at
the
your
way.
poses.
For Alex,
I was gonna take my
and
shirt off.
T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll talk to
I'll
you
listen
guys
to that
tomorrow
podcast.
at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane is next here on 101 ESPN.